Never push a button too many times, people. That's all I'm saying. Just don't ever do that. Especially someone else's buttons. Don't push someone else's buttons multiple times. Don't ever do that.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Fan Upstate proudly presents your one-time Star Award champions of this building, the Great One, Lonzo, also me, Rob Brown, actually a New Age outlaw. It is the Rob Brown Show. Happy Friday, y'all.
Are you an old G or a new G? You got a big G on your chest. I don't know. What's that G for?
This G in particular is for the Greenville Drive.
You know what? You know how you can see that G?
Go to the stream.
Yeah, go to Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube.
If you've never hung out with us before, today is a great day to jump on board and hang out with us. Why, might you ask? Hypothetical listener that I just made up for this exact circumstance, because...
How many monsters have you had already?
Just the one, but it's a big one.
Okay, all right, because...
I'm actually hyped. Let me tell you why.
So you going double ham already.
I'm going double ham. Going ham at 9 a.m., baby. Where's Kevin been?
Listen.
Kevin hadn't been here in a minute. Where's Kevin been?
Going ham the way you are, you got to be careful, man. The Armada's driving. You don't want them to, to swerve a little.
Listen, you don't need the Red Bull when you turn on the Rob Brown Show. We got all the adrenaline you could possibly need. Let me tell you, Zoe, why your boy is jacked up on the radio broadcast today, because we have a phenomenal show lined up for you today. Here in just a minute, we're diving right in because we are stock, locked, and loaded from top to bottom. Here in just a minute, we're going to talk about the NIL hearings taking place in Congress over the last couple of days. I know, but really not. And I'll tell you why. Stick around for that. Coming up in the extended last segment of the show today, of this hour on the show today, we are going to be joined by someone that have a great amount. What in the blue hell was that?
Someone's moving furniture.
In where? Hell? What was that?
I think it's in the hallway. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, there aren't many sounds that are louder than Rob Brown, especially when you're listening to him through a set of head cans. But apparently, some sort of hellhound is making its way around the hallways of the building this AM.
I'm guessing.
Let me open the door and yell at him.
Well, it's probably Chris moving something in the hallway. That's what I'm guessing. There are some things that are sitting out there that would make that kind of noise. I'm just, it is pretty loud.
All right, coming up.
You think you're mad about it? There's somebody else over there probably really ticked right now.
Fuming right now. Coming up in the last segment of this hour, it is going to be a longer segment. It's going to start about 9:35 today. First couple of segments going to be a little shorter than usual. Someone that I have an immense amount of respect for. Somebody that I am very intrigued to have this conversation with. We are going to be joined by Manon Rhéaume. Manon Rhéaume is the only woman to ever play in one of the big four professional leagues in the United States. Manon Rhéaume was a player in the National Hockey League. She is the only woman to ever play competitively in one of the big four leagues. She played a couple of preseason games for the Tampa Bay Lightning, was dangerously close to actually making their roster as a reserve goalkeeper. She is now the hockey operations and prospect advisor for the LA Kings. She is in town because this evening, the Greenville Swamp Rabbits are hosting Wonder Woman Night. It is Women in Sports Night. We will be celebrating the women who make sports great. And Manon Rhéaume is going to join us here on the show to both talk about her time as a hockey player, as the only woman to play in one of the big four leagues, and her experience in seeing the raised importance and acceptance of women in sports. So we got her coming up in the very last segment of this hour, but it is going to be an extended final segment of this hour. Then coming up at 10 o'clock, women's Final Four breakdown as the South Carolina Gamecocks get set to take on the Hawkeyes of Iowa. Of course, led by the Naismith Player of the Year, Caitlin Clark.
You're just trying to incite people when you do that. You really are. You're trying to incite.
She a gangsta dog.
That's almost shock jock there.
It's absolutely not.
It almost is because you're inciting me. Okay, so that undefeated South Carolina Gamecock team, the reigning undisputed. I'm not doing it.
It's WrestleMania week.
It's
WrestleMania week,
dude. I got this show. I got to host a show tomorrow. I got to have a voice.
Reigning, defending, undisputed women's basketball national champions.
Why'd you lose your growl when you got to that part?
Because
you also have a show to do. Anyway, so you're doing all that, and the Gamecocks aren't going to lose, man. This is the beginnings of a dynasty. Do they become a dynasty after they win this championship?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes, I think basketball is a little different because of March Madness, because of how the tournament works. I think if you string two back-to-back, even if you are a great team, stringing two back-to-backs really, really tough. And the Gamecocks are they are the Vegas odds-on favorite to do it. They were at the beginning of the tournament. They remain now as the Vegas odds-on favorite to do it. But if, and this is why I've said repeatedly, if there is a team out there that can knock the Gamecocks off, that can take the crown off the Queens, it's the Iowa Hawkeyes. So we're going to break that game down in depth coming up at 10 o'clock. Then at 10:25, Spencer Rattler has finally spoken on his decision to remain at USC. We're going to get into that. Then at 10:45 this morning. Yesterday, we told you that, who was it? Florio said he fully believes that the NFL is working towards making every single night of the week a football night in America. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'd have football at the professional level every single night. But he said in order to do that, that the NFL would have to expand to have either 38 or 40 teams. Well, longtime friend of the Rob Brown Show, Jay Busby of yahoosports.com, floated an interesting idea. We talked about expansion. We talked about overseas expansion and how difficult the logistics of having a team in London or Mexico City or Frankfurt, Germany might be for the National Football League. But he came up with a solution to that. And I think it's a good one. We'll get to that at 10:45. Then 11 o'clock, opening day reactions. Baseball's opening day taking place yesterday. All 30 teams in action. Some look good, some not so much. The Atlanta Braves are 1-0 after going on the road to the nation's capital and knocking off the Nats. But it came at a price as Max Fried had to be lifted from the game. Max Fried, of course, who checked in second in the NL Cy Young voting last year, had to leave the game with some hamstring discomfort. We'll check that out. Pitch clock, how'd it go? I'm going to go ahead and spoiler alert you the 11 o'clock segment, Lonzo. I really didn't think about it yesterday. It didn't impact the game hardly at all, with a few exceptions. Rafi Devers got K'd on a violation. Jeff McNeil was awarded a strike because of a base runner, not himself. We're going to talk about that. There were a couple of violations yesterday that directly impacted games, but overall, it really didn't impact games.
You know, I'm just curious, can this eventually affect how you bet a baseball game?
100%.
Because I know a show that talks about that.
100%. And we will talk about that on this show at 11 a.m. And I'll bet for the cycle when it debuts for the 2023 season coming up April 16th. Myself, Cody Decker, Hating-Ass Mario, bringing you all the baseball gambling on Saturdays. And by the way, we talk about it as a baseball gambling show. It is a baseball show that focuses on gambling, right? We do just talk baseball. So make sure you tune in April 16th from noon to 4 on the BetQL network for Bet for the Cycle. All right, so that's the show all top to bottom today. At 11:25, because it is WrestleMania weekend. We gave you our picks yesterday. We went up and down the card and gave you all the picks. We'll give you some story thoughts today. We're just going to break down some of the different stories going on in the WrestleMania season leading up to the Showcase of the Immortals this weekend. That is going to be at the second to last segment of 11:25. And then, of course, at 11:45, we will wrap up the show as we always do with a little Twitter trending topics to send you off into the weekend. Would you like to be a part of today's radio show? Would you like to make your voice heard? Would you like to speak to the Rob Brown Show Armada? You can do it, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, the GhostDropFamilyDealerships.com phone line is open for you at 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. The GhostDropFamilyDealerships.com phone line open. The text line open for you as well at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N. We're going to read them on the air. And, of course, you can tweet both myself and the great one at The Rob Brown Show on Twitter, at The Rob Brown Show. Lonzo's handle at Lonzo on Word, W-O-R-D, at Lonzo on Word. And, of course, you can tweet everybody up in the hizzle by hitting us up at VFanUpstate on Twitter. And, of course, as always, as we mentioned earlier, join the stream. Hello, stream. By going to Facebook.com/TheFanUpstate, Twitter.com/TheFanUpstate. Go to YouTube, search The Fan Upstate. Go to Twitch and search The Rob Brown Show. And make sure you follow us and join in on the conversation. We got James in there, Trey, Skrilla, Steven, already up in the chat today.
You have a question about the our streaming community. We know what the Armada is. That's the guys that are and girls that are out there doing, work and listening to us. Should the streamers have a name?
They do. Have you not heard it?
I have not.
The Robbots.
Yeah.
Come on!
I don't know. I mean, that
What
would.
do you mean you don't know?
That's so last year. That's just so last
the
year.
Armada's from last year.
Yeah, but that's different. I just think maybe we need another name.
I like the Robbots.
Yeah.
We got the Armada on the listening. We got the Robbots in the chat.
What do you think on the stream? Do you like being called Robbots?
I think it's great.
When I think Robbots, I think Fembots. And, I just do. All right. So Robbots also make me think of artificial intelligence, and that just bothers me.
That's why you don't like it.
That's why. Yeah.
That's why. Yeah. For the record, I have been called artificial intelligence in the past, but it is what it is. Ladies and gentlemen,
I'm hoping to squeeze in maybe a review of a movie before the end of the show.
Lonzo and I did have a Rob Brown Show field trip last night. Went and watched.
It's just us because everybody else.
I know, everybody else bailed like losers.
Yeah, they did. That's
what
fine.
What kind of losers don't go see a Dungeons and Dragons movie on a Thursday night? We might have time. We might be able to fit that in. Maybe we skip Twitter and just review that movie instead.
I'm for that.
We'll see how it goes.
It's just less work for me.
Let's run to a break. When we come back here in just a minute, we're going to have a bit of a short segment. Because, again, if you missed it, we do have a guest coming in at about 10:35. We are going to be joined by Manon Rhéaume. She is going to join us to talk women in sports and hockey, the only female to ever play in one of the big four leads. But when we come back here in just a moment from right now, that NIL hearing that took place earlier this week, there was a pretty loud voice in it that said, this is about consumer protection, and the consumer is the athletes, not the fans. How do we feel about that? I don't know how you feel. I'll tell you how I feel and get your reactions when we come back. I am Rob Brown. He is the great one. This is the Boat Show. It's the Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate.
All right, so should I be noobed tomorrow night
Noob.
every time I slip and say 106.3 and not 98.9, or even come close, because I've heard the hosts get partway and stop themselves and say, oh, I think I'm gonna have to do that. Just thinking about that.
Noob yourself.
I'm putting pressure on myself to not mess up. So, I've noobed myself a bunch when I've had to run the board because I always leave Fox up because I'm a dummy.
I'm gonna run to break at 9:29 or so. So super short segment. So that I can lengthen up that
okay.
That last segment.
You like told me before the show, and then you just like said it in the last
when
segment.
I say
and
things
now
like that to you, Lonzo,
is to tell yourself. Okay.
It's as much to tell me.
Okay,
as it is
I got you.
Cool.
I got you. All right. Sure. Maybe. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. It's been a really long week. Go for it, Trey. See what happens. Especially try it tomorrow night. You never know. You might get a song that you weren't ready for. Maybe I should scrap all my plans for the Upstate Pulse tomorrow night and do nothing but things that play on Magic and just karaoke the entire time. The question is, your requests, how many people in that show are going to actually know what the songs are, other than probably me and maybe Cameron, because of upbringing. I had a song planned for tomorrow night, and I may change my mind. I haven't decided. It was a suggestion by a family member. I think I mentioned it on the air. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it. If I do, I'll do it in the 8 o'clock hour when there's people either watching WrestleMania or watching Final Four. I haven't decided if I'm doing the song tomorrow night or not. Trey says he's going to request songs. I told him, be careful because I may just sing the entire show. Done it before.
You ever heard somebody else give an opinion on the air that you've given before and you kind of feel justified by it?
Absolutely.
The Rise guys right now are comparing. They're saying Adam Cole is Dollar General Shawn Michaels, which I've been saying his whole career.
Yeah, but I don't.
And he's grown on me.
I was gonna say I don't see that though. He's like the exact opposite of Shawn Michaels, at least out of the ring. So I mean, and if you've watched the behind the scenes AEW thing, you should watch that. It's pretty good. The All Access thing.
I saw a few minutes of it, and it just feels very Real Housewives of Wrestling.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is. I think there's a lot of scripting going on.
And I'm out.
We'll see. There's a lot with Adam Cole, though.
Yeah.
And yeah. That was actually last night, Josh. Rob and I went to see it.
What?
I was answering the thing. Gotcha. I mean, you know, I can see the clock. I got time to talk to what I'm not calling them Rob bots. I like the boat show better. What's the best member of a crew on a boat? First mate?
Captain, but below him will be the first mate.
How about a bosun?
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. On Wednesday, there was a congressional hearing targeting what was labeled by, of course, those who have every financial reason not to want NIL to continue. They labeled it all about, quote, NIL chaos, end quote, in college sports. And their goal was to discuss, allegedly, the ramifications of athletes being deemed employees of their schools, and mostly highlighted those who support congressional intervention to protect the collegiate model, end quote. Representative Gus Bilirakis, a Republican from Florida, is the chairman of the subcommittee on innovation, data, and commerce, and said passing a federal NIL law would preempt existing state laws and provide clarity and transparency for athletes. You know, something Rob Brown told you 2 years ago when this all kicked off, and I said the NCAA sitting on their own hands is going to create chaos because while a lot of people philosophically and politically speaking very much love the concept of leave it up to the states, when there are businesses that are involved in every single state that can't move, like college sports, you got to have some regulation at the federal level. You may not love it, but you do, or else you're going to have an uneven playing field. And that's exactly what has happened. Now, sucks for the colleges, but the solution was right there the whole time. So they had this hearing in which they had a number of different representatives show up. They heard from 2 college sports administrators, the president of a Division II university, a former college turned NFL player, a current Florida State softball player, and one of the leaders of an athletes advocacy group. There was one thing in common betwixt the majority of the witnesses that went in front of this subcommittee. It was that most of them are actually on board with federal legislation to level the playing field across all states for all colleges. The difference was what they wanted those regulations to look like. Those that were in charge of presidents, etc., were presidents in charge of universities, etc., were very much on bringing the hammer down on the NIL. Those that were players or player advocates were very much in favor of let the athletes make as much as they can, but make it even across the board. Florida State softball player Kaylee Mudge said, quote, the creation of an employee-employer model would significantly threaten this current dynamic and alter everything we know about how sports outside football and men's basketball are supported. Something I agree with. The one thing that has very much kept me from allowing, to the best of my ability, though Lonzo pushes it every time we have this discussion, and I respect him for it, the concept of players are employees.
They are.
Is that it would dynamically impact every sport that's not football and men's basketball.
They may not be working for the university, but they are working for an entity that's paying them.
Sure.
You don't just work. You just don't just get paid for something without giving something back.
Right. Your name, image, and likeness. That's literally what it's called. You are giving your name, image, and likeness to this business, right?
So you are an employee of whoever that business is.
Correct. I've never argued that.
Right.
What I've said is they're not employees of the school because then you get
unless the
this
school
new...
somehow is directly involved with that. As in, would you call, if you recruit a business, aren't you kind of asking that player to work for that business by recruiting that business?
But it's still not working for you. Now we've had this conversation.
It's like money laundering. I mean, it's the same thing. I do this over here, this thing, and suddenly the money's clean.
What it is acting as an agent, right? If the school, like in Florida, they're allowed to do this. In Florida, because Ron DeSantis rolled back a lot of the guardrails that were put in place initially, the schools can, to some degree, it's not like a free-for-all, but the schools can, to some degree, help facilitate NIL deals for their athletes, which makes that an attractive state to land in if you're an athlete where compensation matters to you more than school or the sport or whatever. If making some cash money is one of your biggest priorities, Florida has just become a phenomenal landing spot for you as a college athlete. Because those guardrails are down, the school can help. Versus in a school like, say, California, where they're not allowed to help you solicit and facilitate deals. I'm less attracted there. If Florida State or Florida or Miami can actively put business in front of me and put me in front of a business to make an NIL deal happen, and California schools can't, well, if I'm looking to try to make some scratch on top of PT, that's a great landing spot. But here's what this comes down to me. Charlie Baker is the NCAA president. Now, he was not amongst the witnesses at the hearing, but he did issue a statement on it, in which he said, quote, NIL is a powerful vehicle that rightfully allows student athletes the ability to earn compensation from their unique market value. Now, if we stop the statement there, me and old Charlie, lockstep, baby. I like it. The problem is he didn't stop there. He said, quote, at the same time, the lack of transparency in today's NIL marketplace puts student athletes in jeopardy of exploitation by bad actors. Don't have a problem with that either. I don't disagree.
Yeah, like the guy who was promised a certain amount of money and
by the
didn't get
Gator
it.
Collective.
Yeah.
That is exactly correct. The quarterback out of Cal. Forgive me for not remembering his name off the top of my head, but he didn't get a $9 million paycheck, so I've forgotten who he is.
We'll probably never hear from him again. So
I don't know. He's at Arizona State. He might be a pretty good quarterback. He's like a 4, almost 5-star QB. We might hear from him
when's the
again.
last time you heard of a great player from Arizona State?
Didn't Pat Tillman go there? Wasn't he?
I thought he went to Arizona.
Yeah, one of them. Who knows? Anyway, Baker did go on to say that the premise of all of this was consumer protection for college athletes. And I'm fine with that. If I truly believed that that was his number one motive, I would support Charlie Baker unendingly based on what he had to say. Problem is, I don't believe that at
You were
all.
right, by the way. Pat Tillman went there.
Ah, bang, nailed it.
So did Terrell Suggs.
There you go.
So did
You get a wildcat in the league every now and then.
So did Jake Plummer.
Jake Plummer, that's right.
So did Danny White. So I wish I could strike what I said from the record, but it's too late, you know?
I mean, in fairness, you said Jake Plummer, so let's not get cray.
I made sure that was the last name I said, so yeah.
Let's not get cray-cray, okay? Anyway, I would love to believe that Charlie Baker was being the most sincere he could be, but frankly, I just don't, okay? I just don't. He said that the athletes are the folks that they are looking at protecting here. The athletes are the ones that they are looking after. The athletes are the consumers in all this, and they just want to protect the athletes. And again, if I believe that, it would be very nice, but I can't
But
say
the athletes
that I
are not
do.
the consumers. The athletes are the product.
To some degree, you and I are on the same page here. The athletes are the product of my old man used to tell me, if there's a service that's free, you're not the consumer of the service, you are the product, right? Like Facebook. Facebook's free. You're not the consumer of Facebook. You are the product. Facebook has one goal, to sell you to advertisers who put their money into Facebook, right? It's the same situation here. Now, do I think that that means that we should protect the athletes to make sure they're not taken advantage of by outside actors in the business world? Yes, of course. That is why I absolutely think there needs to be major consumer protections as far as the athletes go. But this hearing, when the folks in charge started talking about we want to do this, we don't want to do that, to me, a lot of it certainly sounded like it was, how do we protect the universities themselves? And again, I'm not upset with the universities for the concept of self-preservation. You know who else acts out of self-preservation? All of us. We all act out of self-preservation. Job-wise, relationship-wise, work, whatever. We all act out of self-preservation, and these schools are no different. I just wish that it would be a little bit more, let's work together to ensure that all parties are protected versus the colleges who it felt like in this hearing, and I don't know how much, if any of it, that any of you watched it. But these hearings, when they started bringing on presidents and administrators, basically sounded like their concept of the NIL moving forward was that the schools are the most protected unit here. You want to keep it safe? You want to keep it solid? Make a level playing ground between all the schools that allows the players to benefit. You increase parity in sports. You increase competition across the sports, and you open up the field where, because like the softball player from FSU said, Kaylee Mudge, she said that forcing a situation where the athletes are deemed employees and not students forces a situation where you kind of put the students against each other instead of all on the same page. For instance, should the players be allowed to unionize without being called employees? I don't know. Maybe. There's still a lot that has to get worked out. And I think my biggest takeaway from this congressional hearing was that despite the fact that we're 2 years in, almost 3, despite the fact that we kind of know the direction that NAL has gone in so far, there hasn't been enough done. We're going to come back to this later because I got a lot more thoughts on it, but we have got to take a break because joining us for the remainder of this hour when we come back, Manon Rhéaume, the only female to play in one of the big 4 leagues. She played NHL hockey for the Tampa Bay Lightning back in the early 90s. She is going to join us next to talk about her experience, her story, and the advancement of women in sports on the backs of athletes like her. That's next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Be right back, guys. I'm going to get her set up. We'll be right back.
backyard ice rink, and we were playing there. And one day my dad said to my mom, like, we need a goalie for the tournament. None of the kids wants to play goalie. I'm going to make someone mad by dressing him as a goalie. I don't know what to do. And I look at my dad, it's like, why not me? I'm doing it with my brother. Why not me? And that's how I got started. But my dad knew that people may be complaining because I'm a girl. So he made sure I had my helmet on. And after that first practice, people were so excited to see a goalie, knowing that their kid's not going to have to play goalie. And I got accepted right away. But that lasted that year. And after that, when I started trying out on boys' team at the highest level, like sometimes like parents would complain, knowing that why would you take a girl that's going to take the spot of one of our boys that's going to make it to the NHL? Like that's how they were seeing me. So I had to fight through this along the way.
Talk to me a little bit about, I'm sure even as a mite, you had to kind of feel like this was going on. Did you, at the time, even being that young, did you feel like there was additional pressure, not just to go out there and play, but to be good, to kind of knock those concerns down a little bit?
Yes, and I think my dad was really smart about how to handle that. So I remember when I started playing goalie and I started having a lot of success, one of the dad told my dad, my son is playing in the backyard all the time and he's really good goalie. You should put him in. And my dad came to me and said, next game, you're not going to play goalie. I'm going to let you play out. We're going to try this kid. And I look at my dad, I said, why now? Now that I'm playing well, then I have success, someone wants to play goalie? And he said, Manon, just trust me. And sure enough, the next game we lose 13-3. All the parents are complaining about this kid's being in net and said, we want your daughter back in net. So along the way, I realized that, my dad knew what he was doing when he was making those decisions and that it's not going to be easy. I'm going to have to work hard all the time and try to keep going.
Manu Riom joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate, the first and only woman to play at the NHL. So when you started advancing up into the higher levels of hockey, did the attitude towards you change? Did it get more hostile? Because obviously the higher you go, the more competition is amongst players who believe that I am an NHL caliber player, et cetera. Did it get progressively more hostile as you increased in league standings?
I think it just become more like the pressure on me to be great and proving what I was able to do become more on me, like to be able to perform and prove what I can do. Like after I made the first time the AA level, which was the highest level at the Bantam level, I played 2 great seasons, and they invited all the guys, the goalie that played AA to the AAA tryout, except me, because I was a girl. So I had to take a different path. I ended up playing with a women's league that was 2.5 hours away from my house. And because we were women, we were playing at 11 o'clock at night when everybody had no more people on the ice. They would give us the ice time at 11 o'clock at night. And we were done by 12:30 in the morning. I would drive back home at 3 or 4 in the morning. But that's what I had to do to keep playing. And one day, one of the junior coaches saw me play on that women's league, and he started talking to me about his team. And when he named some players, I was like, oh, I play with him. I play against him. So he said to me, do you want to come and practice with us to see what you can do? And I remember telling my mom, I'm not going to school next Monday. I'm going to Trois-Rivières and practice with the team, because they used to practice during the day. It was an hour and a half away from my house. And when I got there, because I performed well in practice, he was impressed. He invited me to camp. So I felt like along the way, I always had like that one person that give me that shot. And then I had to be really good to be able to have another chance, basically.
I have talked to female athletes at every level, and the word that always seems to pop up is opportunity, right? We just want the opportunity to prove that not only are women's sports great, and we're seeing that with the women's tournament. I mean, Iowa versus South Carolina tonight is going to be one of the most watched women's basketball games of all time. But especially when there are elite caliber athletes that can jump up and play in men's leagues and kind of knock that barrier down a little bit. For you, when those opportunities came up, was there a sense of relief when you got invited to a practice, then got invited to a camp, eventually got invited to come to a preseason with the Lightning? When you got those opportunities, did the importance of them? Did the weight of them register with you at the time? Or was it, hey, I'm a hockey player and this is what I do?
No, for me, it was more like I love the game. I've been doing it since I'm 5, and I want to try to go as far as I can. So every time those opportunities came, I took the chance. Like I remember when I got invited to the Tampa Bay training camp, a lot of people said to me, "Are you not afraid to look bad out there? You don't have the same experience as the guys." And I told myself, so many times people said no to me because I was a girl. And this time, I don't care why they're inviting me. At the end of the day, I'm going to have to prove myself there. I'm the one that's going to be facing those 100 miles an hour shots every single day. And I just didn't want to live my life with regrets. So when I got that shot, I just went for it.
Let's talk a little bit about being in those camps, because I think on one hand, you kind of had maybe more pressure than a lot of the guys do, because not only do you have the pressure of succeeding to prove that you belong there, but I am sure even at the time, you knew there were young women looking up to you as a role model, as somebody who could illustrate how great women in sports can be. Did you feel at the time, whether it was coming up through AAA, AA, all the way up to the league, maybe when you got with the Lightning, like, did you feel that extra pressure as the first, specifically at the highest level of the NHL, the first woman to get a crack at it? Did you feel extra pressure because of that? Or at the time, were you just the mindset of a hockey player, I'm going out here to be the best goalkeeper I can be?
No, at that time, I didn't realize like the impact of what I was doing would do on people. Like I had no clue. I was just given this amazing opportunity and I just went for it. But I had a moment of panic. I think that, when I said yes and I went there, I remember the first night when we got to the hotel, we had a meeting. So all the guys were sitting there and I walk in the room and I sat in the back. I saw a couple of French players that I knew. So I'm like, I'm going to go sit with them, talk to them. And remember the coach saying, "Hey, everybody that's sitting in the back, come sit in front," because nobody never sit in front of the room. And I'm like, really? Now I have to walk through everybody to go sit in front. And I was looking around me and I was seeing those guys. And I remember seeing Tony McKechnie, and he was about 35 years old. I was 20. He used to play for the Quebec Nordics. I grew up in Quebec. Like my parents had season tickets. So we watched every single game. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm in the same room than this guy that played in the NHL forever. Everybody was so big compared to me. And for a moment, I said to myself, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? And then to make it worse, the airline lost my luggage. So I didn't have any clothes. I didn't have my gear yet. So after the meeting, I went back to my room. And the next morning, that was the fitness testing. So I go see Phil and I said, listen, they don't have my luggage. I don't have anything to wear. I said, don't worry, go see my daughter. She's going to have clothes for you. She was smaller than me. So she had only jean shorts. I tried to put them on and they were skin tight on me. And then the team had made t-shirt and the t-shirt said, "Real men wear black." And she's with the Tampa Bay Lightning logo. And that's a t-shirt I have to wear. So now I have a t-shirt that says that and tight jean shorts, showing up in front of all those guys dressed like this for fitness testing. I'm so embarrassed. And I'm thinking to myself, why that happened to me? So that was really difficult, but was the greatest moment of that camp right after we went on the ice for the first time. And I knew that first time was probably the most important time for me on the ice because nobody knew what to expect. And we started right away with a mini game. I finally got my gear right on time before I got on the ice. And I did not allow any goal so every goalie was playing a full period. That was a 2-period game. And I did not allow any goal in a 14 shot in my period. I was the only goalie that day that did not allow any goal. And I remember coming back in my locker room and thinking to myself, what just happened? Like, I couldn't believe. And it's after that game that Phil Esposito announced, the way she played today, you may see her in an exhibition game. And to me, that was a turning point. That's probably what changed my life.
What was the reaction from, there's a camaraderie amongst hockey players that I almost think is unique to the sport. I've had the chance to be around the Swamp Rabbits, some other teams I've covered in my career. And there is this camaraderie against guys that have been playing hockey, but obviously there's a difference with you walking it. Was there a difference there? Like, did the players make you feel relatively welcomed when you showed up? Because obviously we've seen a lot of reaction from fans, both positive and negative, for you and other female athletes who have played in the men's game. But how did it feel inside the locker room? Like, did it get to a point for you where you just felt like you were in a locker room? You were just part of a team?
I had my own locker room, so that was different too. So I didn't have that camaraderie before the game or the practice because I had my own locker room. When we had a game, maybe the last 5 minutes before we go on the ice, I would join the team in the locker room. But I think that along the way, in every team that I play, when the guys realized that I was there to play the game and that I was always the first one on the ice and always the last one to stay to get more shots after, I would go to the gym after, and I would put the time in to be the better goalie. And so because of that, I think they start respecting the fact that I was working really hard, and they start treating me like a little sister. And that was the cool part. Like, and every team that I went, I always had like 1 or 2 French players that was coming from Quebec. So I had a chance to at least have conversation, and I was becoming friend with their wives or girlfriend, because if, we were have a get together, that's who I was hanging out with. And then I would go back and be on the ice with them and be just one of the player.
Manu Riom joining us here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Let's go back real quick. It's 1992. You're with the Lightning. They plug you in between the pipes in an exhibition preseason game. When you skated on the ice for the first time, I heard you say in an interview that you had kind of that anxiety, knowing what was going on, but when you hit the ice, it all went away. Can you kind of take me back to that moment and what it felt like as both the first woman to play in the NHL, but also as a goalkeeper trying to make a name for herself? What was that feeling when you got on the ice and you're on an NHL rink? And by the way, the St. Louis Blues, they threw a real starting lineup out there that day, had some names on it. What was that moment like for you?
It was crazy. I barely speak English back then. So all the names and everything that was going on, a lot of things I was not aware. Like, I didn't realize how big of a deal it was, basically. So I was super nervous for sure. Anybody that started his first NHL game has to be nervous. But I guess my biggest strength as a goalie was I was able mentally to put myself in a place where I could not think about anything else than just stopping the puck. But I never experienced being so nervous before a game like that game. Like, my heart was beating so hard to the point it's like, can I play when I'm that nervous? And that was really cool to step on the ice. And that's when like all the butterfly ran away, and I was able to put myself in that mental state that you just have to worry about making the next stop. And that, to me, it was a really cool feeling like that. And we got and that word, I cannot say it well in English. We had a penalty.
Yes, you nailed it. Nailed it.
Was that good enough? Right away when the game started. And I'm thinking to myself, why we had to get like one right away? But in hindsight, it was probably the best thing, because I got 3 shots in a row and I made the save, and that got me into the game. And I end the first period, and it was a 2-2 game.
Manu Riom, join us here on the Rob Brown Show. Let's talk off the ice a little bit. I was looking through and listening to some of the press conferences you did, some of the questions that you got. I know one of the first questions you got when you came off the ice was, did you break a fingernail? I mean, obviously there remains sexism in the game. I know in 1992, it must have felt much worse. How did that kind of stuff, did those types of questions inspire you to kind of push yourself a little bit further, or did they even register to you at the time kind of what those questions were really designed to do, which is effectively be an insult?
Actually, I think that a lot of media back then, if it was like today, they would have lost their job along the way. But I guess for me back then, knowing that I was only girls, like even growing up and all the stuff that I had to hear and deal with, I realized that if I want to make it and continue to play with the guys, I just need to fit in, and sometimes just let those things not bothering me, because I didn't want the guys changing the way they talk among each other because I was around. I didn't want to, so they don't feel like, okay, this is not fun having a girl on our team. Like we have to be like this, like this, like this. And so I just had to and I grew up with 2 brothers. So I was just used to all of that. That made it easier. But as far as the media, I just learned to just let it go. And every time I would hear a question, it was just more a motivation for me to work harder, to prove people wrong, and to keep going. So, and it's along the way, like later in life, that when people come up to me and said, Jens, your story inspired my daughter, or my son had a poster of you, he did a project on you in school, or I even had some NHL goalie that told me, when I saw you play, I told myself, if a woman can do it, I can do it. And it become like probably the most satisfying part of everything that I did.
Well, the last thing I was going to ask, I was going to say, I heard somebody ask you the question, do you feel like a role model? I'm going to say respectfully, it doesn't matter because you are, but what is that feeling like? Especially, I mean, we're around the Swamp Rabbits all the time. There's a junior league. I'm back from Pensacola, Florida. There is a junior league there. And there are, according to a buddy of mine who runs a team down there, more young women coming out to play Mite League and junior league hockey than have ever been before. And I think you obviously have a role in that. What is it like when you see young girls skating on the ice, not just to play women's hockey, but to just play hockey?
It's amazing. Like it's such a great sport. Like it's been my passion, since I'm 5 years old. And every time you see another woman breaking barriers, playing with the guys, or even the national team, hearing Canada, USA, the last Olympics was the biggest viewership. It is great because I know that hockey, you learn so many great life lessons through hockey, and all the ups and downs you deal with, that's what you're going to end up dealing with in life after that. And so knowing that more and more girls are playing the game, I know that's going to help them later in life in everything they're doing, like from playing as a team and leader and going through adversity and learning how to fight through those adversities. That just make young girls a lot stronger later.
Manu Riom joining us here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. You are now with the LA Kings down here in Greenville. Obviously, the Greenville Swamp Rabbits affiliated with them. When you get the opportunity to come to a Greenville, come out with the Swamp Rabbits and promote a night that I think is incredibly important, like tonight is Women in Sports Night. Very, very excited to be there this evening. Do you feel like there is a responsibility to make sports more accessible to everyone? I mean, just to make it a more welcoming environment. How important is it for you to get to do things like you're going to do tonight with the Swamp Rabbits?
I think it's really important. And I think that if we want to continue to grow the sports, on the women's side and on the girls' side, the opportunity to have more women and girls playing the game and be fan of the game. You don't need to play the game to be fan of the game. And I don't know how many people that I talk to, when you have the chance to see a hockey game live, people fall in love with it. I never heard someone going to a live hockey game and said, this is boring. It's probably the most exciting game to watch. It's physical. It's a lot of skills. And some of the play those guys make, especially in today's world, like I look back when I played to now, like the things that guys or girls are able to do with the puck on their skates, I think it's very amazing. And so to get more fans, to have more young girls starting to play the game or watch the game, I think it's super important if we want to continue to grow the sports.
Manu Riom is the only woman to play in one of the 4 major professional leagues here in the United States. Spent time with the Tampa Bay Lightning in the NHL. She is in town as the Greenville Swamp Rabbits celebrate Women in Sports Night, including my girl Big T over here, the one that runs the show. If you enjoy Swamp Rabbit games, she gets all the credit. Tim gets none of it. It's all Big T. She will be there this evening, as will Manu Riom, as we celebrate Women in Sports Night with the Greenville Swamp Rabbits. Thank you so much for coming by. I could do this with 3 hours with you. This is phenomenal. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. Let's take a break. We'll come back and get to hour number 2 of the Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate. Really good. Thank you very much. We'll be right back, guys. Stay tuned.
set the screen back up. All right, we're back. Let me tell you guys, and this is dumb. That is the
That interview was the most nerve-wracking interview I have done in a very long time. Okay? Very long time. I had genuine butterflies. And let me tell you why. For those of you that have followed the show for any length of time, you know that I do the best that I can to promote women in this industry and in sports as a whole. It is why when I get the opportunity, we have an Emily Adams on. We have Savannah on to talk golf with us. I do what I can because this world, this sports world is for everyone. It's not exclusionary, right? I do what I can to use my platform to promote women in this industry and sports as a whole. That young lady, Manu Rayom, is a trailblazer. When you talk about the important women in sports, when you talk about Serena, when you talk about the great women across the Simone Biles, Simone. Can you tell I'm still rattled?
Biles. Right?
Simone Biles, yeah. I'm genuinely rattled by that because this young woman is a trailblazer, not in hockey, but in sports as a whole.
Would you like me to critique you some things that you did wrong that would make you feel better and less nervous? Because I could do. It's all stream related.
I want you to know. Besides turning around and showing the back of my head to the
that's it. That's it. By the way, hair game strong today.
Hair game strong today.
So you're all right.
I gave myself. I'm not kidding you. An extra half hour to get ready this morning. Okay, because I knew she was coming in. That young lady is a trailblazer, not in hockey, in sports as a whole, and has been for the better part of 30 years. First off, for the better part of 30 years, well, 31 now, the only woman to ever play in one of the big four.
I will say,
That's
when you told me she was coming in, I thought she would be bigger.
Yeah.
Especially being a goalie. Because I think you have a vision in your mind. The goalie's always the big person that takes up more space, but it's more about skill than it is size.
100%. I would be willing to bet, you know what, we might do this on the show next week. If I printed the starting lineup of every NHL team just the pictures of the players, no pads on, I would bet you would not pick out correctly goalkeepers out of the starting 6.
Are they smiling?
If I just printed pictures.
Okay, I mean, if they're smiling, I got a shot saying that he's got a full set of teeth.
So it must be him.
Maybe
got a
he's
helmet
the
on.
goalie. Yeah, I mean,
that's fair.
That's my Batman detective work there. What can I say?
We might play that game next week. I might print out like 10 NHL teams starting lineup, and we'll see if Zoe can correctly guess the goalkeeper of the group when they're not padded out. That is the single most nerve-wracking interview I have done in life. I am still coming down off of it.
By the way, it's not a slight saying I thought she would be bigger because, again, I when I picture goalie, I picture a really large person.
I am going to tell you that reflexes, flexibility, agility, and endurance are the mark of a goalkeeper. You can be a smaller player and be an excellent goalkeeper if you got that quick reaction, you've got insane flexibility, and you can withstand having a bunch of people blocking right around you, constantly jostling you around, and still do your job. And Monterrey is absolutely possessing all of those qualities. And he said, go back and watch the game's on YouTube. You can go back and watch that 92 exhibition game and watch her play. She was incredible. You don't listen. The Phil Esposito was the GM of the Lightning at the time in 92 when they were coming into the league as an expansion team. And Esposito said to Manu after she got there, this is a publicity stunt to some degree, right? Like, you're a good player. We wouldn't just bring in some clown off the street, right? Not even the Rabbits. As many times as I have begged them, we'll let Rob Brown suit up as a goalie to give it a crack, right? They won't do it because I have never played before. But that's not the point. I'm just not good. You still got to be good. But Phil Esposito basically told her, you're coming in to some degree as a publicity stunt. And I think it would have been more than fair if she would have said, no, I'm good. I want to come in because I'm a damn good hockey player, not as a publicity gag. But you know what she did? She showed up at camp. She earned a spot in an exhibition game. She went up against a lineup in those St. Louis Blues in 92 that had a couple Hall of Famers across their front line. Went in, played a period, left with a 2-2 tie. She's good. But like I said.
Yeah, there's video. I'm watching it right now. And yeah.
She can move, right? She can move. At NHL caliber, she can move. And so to have someone sitting 4 feet to my left, trying to have a conversation with a woman who is not even looking at her as an NHLer. And she is an NHLer. Not even looking at her as an NHLer, but as someone that I know. I've got a dear friend of mine lives down in Pensacola, Josh Gay. Josh was the public address announcer for the Pensacola Ice Flyers, which is the team that got me into hockey. He has a daughter, Charlie, who is a doll. She's probably 9 or 10 now. Charlie, when she was like 6 or 7, told Josh, I want to play hockey. And they were like, I don't know, man. I don't know, right? Like, it's one thing to want to play girls hockey in Quebec. This is Pensacola, Florida, dude. There is one ice rink in the entire Florida panhandle. It's in Pensacola where the Flyers play. So to suffice to say, there is not a lot of opportunity to play hockey. You either play for the Flyers or you play in their junior league. She said, I want to play hockey. Josh was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if it wasn't for women like Manu Real, who was just in the studio with us, that opportunity wouldn't have been there for Charlie. Charlie's now playing junior level hockey in Pensacola, Florida, as a young lady because of women like her. Because of women like her. Again, 15 years, I have interviewed NFL Hall of Famers. I have interviewed NBA Hall of Famers. I have interviewed MLB Hall of Famers. I have interviewed more boxing Hall of Famers than I can shake a stick at. I've interviewed Tyson. I've interviewed Holyfield. I've interviewed Roy Jones Jr. I've interviewed MMAers. I have interviewed professional wrestlers. I have interviewed Olympians, gold medal winners. I have interviewed people at every caliber and every level of success in just about every sport you can think of. And there have been probably 5 that when the interview started, I sat back and was like, what the hell am I doing? I do not deserve to be the one doing this interview. And that right there was one of them. You go back and listen to that interview and listen to me try to stumble through the first few questions where I'm asking her about her upbringing.
By the way, you didn't stumble. You think you stumbled. You did not stumble.
Oh, no, I
You
did. It's okay. It doesn't hurt my feelings.
No. If I know stumbling, I've heard you stumble. That was not a stumble. I've heard you flat out trip before. That was not a stumble.
All right,
I
well,
think
let me
you're overanalyzing what you just did. I get you're excited about it. I thought you did a great job, and it was cool. It was a very cool interview.
It was a great interview. She's a great interview. Has a hell of a story to tell. I told Tim when we got done. So we had up in here like half the Swamp Rabbits administration. My guy Britton in PR was up here. Big T, Terry Johnston is our operations director during games. If you go to a Swamp Rabbits game and you enjoy the show that gets put on, that's Big T. She's the best. And Timmy V, GM of the squad, was up in here too. Buddy of mine. And, oh, by the way, in case you didn't see it in the background, they also brought the Kelly Cup. They also brought the championship damn trophy for the league up in here.
By the way, someone's head kept getting in the way of the trophy. I should have got up, walked over, and moved it.
That's fine.
But yeah. No, I'm talking about your head.
No, I know whose head it is.
Yeah,
I'm aware.
Talking about your head. But that trophy is that is nice. Yeah. It looked really heavy. I didn't want to hold it because I want to take a chance of dropping it.
It was heavy. So they brought that in here, and I've been around hockey for not my whole life. I didn't get to hockey till I was
why are hockey
17.
trophies so cool? I mean,
hockey trophies are the best.
Why can't some other sports do stuff like that?
Hockey trophies are the best.
By the way, I want to point out that the radio station of the year, we've got a couple of those downstairs. It's a hockey trophy for sure.
Hockey trophies are the best.
And very heavy.
When we started that conversation, and or I should say when we ended that conversation, and I was walking Tim down to the hallway to send them back down to their car, Tim was like, great segment, appreciate it. I was like, dude, I would love to get her on an extended edition podcast. I could have done another 2 hours of that conversation. I loved it.
And by the way, I'm free to ask questions, but you're in the zone, dude. I mean, you were killing it. And I thought she was a very compelling guest, and I thought it was a great interview.
Let me put it this way. One of the things that happens is when you get somebody that has a story like that, there's a background like that, and most importantly, is a trailblazer, is a role model like she is. I have had interviews, Zoe, where you get somebody that has a story like that to tell. Somebody who came from nothing or fought against adversity or wasn't welcome and had to break their own barriers down. And you get them on and you're like, talk to me about this. And they're like, yeah, it was real hard. It was tough. And he's like, dude, your story's so good. I felt like I asked her a question. In fact, I said at the end of the interview, I'm like, she was answering 3 questions ahead of me because she's got such a great story and she is such a great storyteller. That was a phenomenal interview. That was, I was trying to think who's the last athlete that made me feel that way. Who's the last athlete that when the interview kicked off, I, in my gut, felt nervous because she and her story and what she went through and what she accomplished deserves the best platform she can be on. She deserves someone who can set her up to tell her story in a great way. And I'm not saying this to beat myself up because I'm good at this job. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't. All right. I'll be Ric Flair for a minute. I'm damn good at this job. I don't know if I was good enough to let her use this platform to tell her story that I think should be told to inspire young women around the country to be involved in sports, to be welcomed in sports, to excel at sports. And it didn't matter because she told that story, because she felt it. And you could tell that she felt it and that it mattered to her. So thanks again to Tim and Big T and Britton and all the Greenville Swamp Rabbits organization. Thanks again to Manu Rion for coming in and telling that story. I am still coming down off of that interview. That was unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. Let's take a break. When we come back, Alonzo, I spent last night for the first time in a long time actually building out an organized show outline with a schedule and time breaks and everything.
Yeah, you've been posting some of that stuff on Twitter, believing that people could read your writing. I'm just,
I can read it. That's all
okay.
that
All right. I mean, it's not as bad as mine or as, doctors or something, but I mean,
Coming up next, the segment that I said I was going to do at 10 o'clock. Well, let's be real. That young lady deserved more time. South Carolina, Iowa, a game that you can and will hear only here on the Fan Upstate, comes up here in just a handful of hours. What does South Carolina need to do to make sure that they dance into the final? There is one thing that makes the difference between a dub and an L tonight, and I'll tell you what it is when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Well, as Tay said, shake it off, baby. Be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. Trey, they are actually making a movie about her right now. That is going to be called Between the Pipes, the Manu Rayon story. And I will, obviously, I mean, I would have watched it anyway. But now I am most certainly going to go watch it.
And by the way, Steven, you're talking about soccer, man. I'm talking about hockey. And I get it in soccer. That's fine. But seeing those big dudes coming at however fast they're skating towards you, I think it takes a certain kind of person, no matter if you're a male or female, to sit in there and watch them come and knowing how fast that puck's going to be flying at you.
Bucko-5,
Yeah.
And they're rock hard. The pucks that go out on the ice for game time come out of a freezer. So they are rock hard when they get played. I would say, as a fan of both, that
I'd rather see a soccer ball coming at me than a hockey puck. And I know
the puck, because you're geared up, versus a soccer ball, if it hits you in the nose, it's gonna break.
No, I get that, but the other thing about the soccer ball, it's a lot bigger. I mean, I got a better shot of seeing it than I do a puck.
That's true. I think soccer, unless you are just exceptionally athletic and skillful, soccer goalie size helps dramatically more. Hockey goalie, you don't really need to be big. You need to be fast, have a great reaction, and a ton of agility.
How often do you get hit as a soccer goalie, though? I mean, you're out in front of it, you're using your hands, you're using whatever.
It can be, like, you can't intentionally hit, but, like, if there's a corner and it's up in the air and you got to go up and get it, you got guys coming into you. And players know when you get a shot on goalie, because it's a ball up in the air, they're very rare, they get dirty.
Got to do what you got to do.
Do what you got to do. Dan, the superfan man, texted into the show, said, Lady Gamecocks, one thing they need to do, #rebound. And that is it. On the offensive glass. Cannot give Iowa second chances. They will make you pay if you give them multiple second possessions. Now, there is one more thing. And this one's very simple. It is the piece of advice that I give every team when they have to go up against an elite player on the hardwood. And I don't care who that player is. LeBron James, Steph Curry, James Harden, Jason Tatum. I don't care who Brandon Ingram. Yes, I'm putting him elite as he went triple-double again last night as the Pellies beat the Nuggets and get back into the 8 spot.
I saw James Harden play defense the other day. I was watching the game.
What?
It was weird. It wasn't for a long period of time, but he played defense, and I'm like, what did I miss? When did this happen? And then he went back to being him. But it just
Who were you and what did you do with the real James
it was
Harden?
weird.
There is a piece of advice I give to every team that is playing an elite caliber athlete, and I don't care if you're playing at the high school level up to the NBA on the hardwood. If you have an elite caliber player, and there are 2 of them on the floor tonight when South Carolina and Iowa get together. For the Lady Gamecocks, led, of course, by number 4, Aaliyah Boston, it is going to be number 20, Caitlin Clark, for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Both of them are going to have the same mentality, but it is more important for South Carolina than it is for Iowa. Iowa, get offensive rebounds, get second chance opportunities. South Carolina, if they want to stop Caitlin Clark and the Hawkeyes and guarantee that they're on their way to back-to-back natty opportunities, you have to make Caitlin Clark either a scorer or an assist machine, but you cannot let her be both.
I'm just curious, is there any other players on Iowa's team? Because that's all anyone ever seems to talk about is Caitlin Clark. Do they have other? I'm guessing they have other players, maybe, possibly.
They absolutely do.
Think you got to have 5 out there, maybe? I don't know.
They absolutely do. there are plenty of other players.
Have
out
you ever
there for
seen a
Iowa that can
player
score.
hyped this much before a game and then watch as they get shut down? Because that's going to happen tonight.
There is a very good defense for the Lady Gamecocks. Very good defense. There is no one player that can shut down Caitlin Clark entirely. If you take away her shot, you know how many
By the way,
assists?
that's why I ask if there is basically another star player, because you're going to double team Clark all the time. So can the rest of Iowa beat South Carolina?
Here's the question. While South Carolina is better than everybody else, I'm not disagreeing. Do you think this is going to be the first game that Caitlin Clark has played into the teeth of a double team? No, of course not. You know what Caitlin Clark, besides the fact that she's averaging north of 25 a game just in this tournament, right? Do you know what else she's done? She has had at least 11 assists in every game in this tournament. If those were all 2-point buckets, she is getting you 25 points and at the least 22 points a game off of assist. That's a young lady responsible for damn near 60 points a game as an assist/elite level scorer. She is Steph Curry. Okay? Without the whining. She's Steph Curry. Because she can snipe from anywhere on the floor. And I'm not just talking about from long range. She can knock down mid-range jumpers with the best of them. And if you give her any room to get to the bucket, she's going to smoke you. Okay? So it's not just about the double team. Because even with the double team, I was very good at getting Caitlin Clark open off the pick. You can double team her. She's going to bring up a third player. She's going to set a pick on a defender, roll off the outside, and unless you have one of the two defenders passing over the top of the screen and getting a hand in the face for the shot afterwards. And by the way, you can't come off the screen and immediately raise up two-handed to interfere with a shot, because if you leave the grab before she does, she will put it on the ground and get around you. I promise you, the Lady Gamecocks are not going to be breaking any ground and stopping Caitlin Clark by double teaming her. She is aware of that. There are other players on the floor that become dangerous.
So Iowa is undefeated, right? I mean, with what you're saying about this player, Iowa's undefeated. So no one's figured out how to do it.
Lonzo, do good teams ever beat better teams in playoffs? It happens all the time. South Carolina is the better team. No one is arguing. I certainly am not arguing
You
that I
sure
was
do
better than
seem
South
to.
Carolina.
I mean, I get that you're taking a side here, and that's fine. Or you're spitting out facts. That's what you're doing.
Correct.
I get it, but seem to be hyping one player.
Let me
and,
fix this. Let me make this real simple. If South Carolina comes into the game with the attitude that you have right now, they will lose. If they come in with the attitude,
what's my attitude? A winner's attitude, knowing how good I am,
we're
how
undefeated.
I know how to.
It's no problem, right? No problem.
That's no. You come in with confidence, knowing that you know how to get the job done, which is what I do every single day when I come into this building. And what you talking about?
If South Carolina rolls in with the attitude of we're undefeated, we're untouchable.
By the way, South
We're
Carolina,
better than them.
they got a scare in the last game. They came in.
Sure as hell did.
They came in, and it wasn't because they got outplayed. It's because they didn't play their game in that first half, and they woke up in the second half. So they're not going to come in and play that same kind of game. There's no way Don Staley lets them do that.
The problem is with this Iowa team led by Caitlin Clark. You can
It's just like Buffalo, having to say Josh Allen every single time. And you're just, I mean, other people are doing this too. So I get it. I don't know Caitlin Clark, but I'm starting to hate her after the last couple of days. I really am. And I hope all other Gamecock fans feel the same way. I can't stand this player now.
That's fine. I don't think she and her 27.3 points per game and 11 assists per game.
She's the one who can't see me, right? So I mean,
Damn
or
Skippy.
I can't see her.
Damn Skippy. 27.3 points per game, 11 assists per game. Here's what I'm saying.
She also the one that said, "Shut up, you're down 15 points." I think that might have been her. To another player, or was that somebody else?
I think that was Haley Van Lith from
Yeah,
Louisville, who
that's-
is also a certified G and a bona fide stud.
That's still funny.
Gangster.
Shut up. You're down 15 points.
Gangster. Here's what I'm going to say about the way that Dawn's girls, in my opinion, ever so humble yet frequently correct, need to handle this. You have got to do one of two things. You got to turn that 27.3 points per game into 12, or you got to turn those 11 assists per game into 3. You have to do one or the other. You either say, you know what? We know we're going to get you. We know you're going to get yours. We know you're going to knock down a logo 3 or 5. We know you're going to knock down a handful of mid-range. We know you're going to get yours, right? It's the same mentality a lot of teams take with LeBron. I know you're going to get yours. That's not a question. You know what we're not going to do? We're not going to let anybody else get theirs. You might get your 27.3, but we're not going to let anybody else get 10. Nobody else on this team's getting 10. If you're going to do it, you're going to have another 41-pointer because you're not getting more than 6 or 7 out of anybody else on the floor. Or you flip that around. Look, we might have to leave some of your role players open. We might have to leave one of your big players, one of your 5 spots. Gabby, McKenna, whoever. We might have to leave them open. They might get some open looks at the bucket. But you ain't getting 27. You might get 8, 9, 10 because you are a very gifted player. But we're not letting you get 27. If everybody else gets 12 or 14, that's fine. But you are not getting 27. You're damn sure not getting 41. You have to not take away, eliminate one facet of her game. Because when she gets going as a point scorer, when she gets going putting the brown thing in the round thing, defenses naturally start to fade to her, right? She's got a hot hand. When she drifts right, the whole zone drifts right. And Caitlin Clark is one of the best passing players in this tournament as well. If she didn't have that facet of her game, right? If she was Kyrie, great score, doesn't distribute the ball well, this game's not a threat. What terrifies you about Caitlin Clark is she's going to get 27, but she's going to layer those assists on top, which means everybody else is getting distribution as well. You cannot slow down one of those two things. You have to eliminate one of those two things. She's either got to walk out of there with 10 or 11 instead of 27 on the scoreboard, or she's got to walk out of there with 3 assists, not 11 plus. Because if she gets to either one of those numbers, or excuse me, if she gets to both of those numbers, this is a threat. It's the last threat. Because all due respect to the other side of the bracket, I don't think LSU, who got smoked a few weeks ago by South Carolina, I don't think Virginia Tech on the other side of the bracket, they are the Cinderella team in this women's tournament. Neither one of them has that one elite player. There's some good players for LSU. If LSU has their absolute best day and South Carolina has their absolute worst day, which, let's be real, South Carolina's not going to have their absolute worst day in the Natty. If they have their absolute worst day and LSU has their absolute best, Angel Reese and the gals in purple and gold can give South Carolina a game. I don't even know if they can win on their best day. Iowa can because of Caitlin Clark. She is dangerous, not because she's an elite scorer. She is. Not because she's an elite passer. She is. They are dangerous because she's both. And like I mentioned, you can sit here and go, oh, the solution is a double team. You think Caitlin Clark hasn't faced double teams before and got her team in the Final Four? Of course she has. And of course she's played through it. You don't think that other teams haven't manned her up with their best man defender? Of course they have. That's where that logo 3, that sniper from the corner, becomes deadly. And oh, by the way, if you rotate pressure to her, she's going to find somebody under the rack. You have to completely eliminate one facet of her game, or she will get you. It's that simple, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take a break. That game, by the way, I should say, I guess, Lonzo, that you can listen to it live right here and only on the Fan Upstate. We will have the women's Final Four games, including South Carolina, taking on Caitlin Clark and her Iowa Hawkeyes tonight, right here and only on the Fan Upstate. Let's take a break. We're back after this to wrap up hour number 2 on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Yes, Luke, I did say punts per game. I'm aware. I heard it too, but I was too committed to that moment to bail out of it. 25 punts per game. Golly. I'm very bad at my job, you guys. Oh, man. So how's everybody doing out there in Stream World, eh? Y'all doing good?
It's like finding a needle. ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Here's what it's like to use ZipRecruiter. They have so many qualified candidates that it's easier to find the right ones for your roles. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of needles. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job, and you can even invite your top choices to apply. So if you want less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter.
That is the advantage of the stream as opposed to be driving in the car and go, did they just say what I think they did? I, of course, have other methods of finding that stuff out. But, you know.
Other ways of making you talk.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, let's go. You're starting to speak another language, like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just.
You should, James. Don't use it too much, though. Then it loses its flair.
Woo!
Waiting for a critical email, and I haven't received it, so maybe I'm good.
Use Babbel's podcasts or games or videos. You can even join live classes with a language teacher.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Évidemment. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
Remember when you were told bigger is better? Well, that's just simply not the case. Do you want a big bill? No. A big burden? No. What about a big bulky tank water heater taking up space in your basement? No, I didn't think so. What you do want is to make all of those things smaller. Heavy tankless water heaters are more efficient and take up less space than outdated bulky tanks, with cutting-edge features that improve safety, simplify processes, and increase capabilities. Once you go back. Learn more at tanklessmadesimple.com.
It's not easy being the one everyone counts on to keep your operation running, no matter the weather or supply chain hiccup.
Jeffrey the Roomba. That's pretty cool. What was the name of that bird on the movie last night? It was kind of like that.
It's a cockra, I think.
No, not his name.
Jonathan.
Jonathan. Yes. Actually, no, I think it was Jarnathan.
That might have been.
Yeah, but still. How did they know about Jarnathan?
He said he knew him before they went in, or something similar to it.
I gotta admit, I've never watched an entire Medea movie. My wife likes them, but you know, I've seen bits and pieces. Cody Rhodes on leaving AEW. It was time for me to be a player and not a coach.
No, that's not why. Cody Rhodes left because Cody Rhodes was not getting the reactions he wanted to get and was going to refuse to ever turn heel because he wanted to be Hulk Hogan of AEW.
Your hatred runs so deep.
Do what?
Your hatred runs so deep.
It doesn't. I don't hate the guy. I love what he's doing.
You are dripping with the vitriol.
In the bloodline. Wrapping up our numero dos of the Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate. Rob Alonzo with you. Major League Baseball opening day in the books. The Atlanta Bravos get the dub yesterday over the Washington Nationals up in the nation's capital. But it cost them Max Fried. Made it 4 and some change while running over to first base to cover the bag on a little bloop down the first base line. Fried stepped on the bag a weird way, had what the Braves described as hamstring discomfort.
Are these the bigger bags?
These are the bigger bags. And there were people asking, might that be it, right? Because on one hand, they shouldn't make a difference in the game. The corner of the bag still sits 90 feet from home plate. Exactly. The corner of the bag is still where the bag has always been, but playing with a different size bag when you are Max Fried's age and you've been playing on identically sized bags quite literally since T-ball, and now those bags are 1.5 inches or 2 inches bigger, whatever they are, is it that much of a difference? I would say in this case, probably not, right? Because the corner of the bag where Fried would have stepped is the same distance away from home plate as it has always been. So that was my initial reaction, was like, oh, okay, are we going to see players maybe getting injured because the bags by being bigger by default are going to be a different shape? You have, even if it has been at this point as a baseball player ingrained into your muscle memory, stepping on a bag a certain way because this is the shape it's always been in your career, might it make a difference? I don't think this would have.
It's like moving in your house with your eyes closed. You know where everything is, and then someone moves something just even an inch out of the way, you're going to step on it and hurt yourself.
Yep. Lady friend's got a coffee table in the living room that gets moved every now and then when we're eating dinner. And if I forget to move it back after dinner, when she goes to bed and I'm walking around in the dark to go turn on the TV in the living room so I don't wake her up, and that coffee table didn't get put back to where it goes because we ate dinner on it, Rob Brown stubs a toe. But otherwise, you can blindfold me and I can walk around my house no problem, right? So is that in play? Who knows? But the big story yesterday in opening day play was, of course, what impact will the pitch clock have in Major League Baseball on the first day? I do have one sound clip here, if you don't mind, please, Lonzo. It's a relatively short one. This one comes from yesterday's game between the New York Mets and the Miami Marlins, a game that the Mets would win 5-3. We're about halfway through the game, and Jeff McNeil, coming off the World Baseball Classic, is dug into the box right now. Pete Alonso, the first baseman, is on first base after getting on. McNeil hits a foul ball, and then this happens. The Mets TV guys clearly did not like that one of their better hitters, Jeff McNeil, got a K called on him because Pete Alonso at first, after Jeff McNeil hit a screamer down the first base line that went foul, Alonso made it all the way to second base. And when it was time for him to go back to first because it was a foul ball strike, he walked. I've seen the video, the outfield camera. Alonso quite literally takes his sweet merry time to get from second back to first. Well, the whole point of this is what? Speed the game up. Let's go. We don't need the whole damn stadium waiting on you to walk 90 feet from second back to first. Get on the horse, get back there. Let's get the next pitch underway. And Alonso didn't. He took his time. Sweet, sweet time. All the while waiting for him, the umpires got play held up because they don't have the runner back in his established position at first base, so they can't start the game. And the umpire eventually goes, that's it. That's a pitch clock violation. That is a clock violation. There's no other punishment available, though, right? The guy's on first. You can't send him backwards base. You can't call him out. What's the least critical penalty you can give there? It's a strike to the batter. It sucks for Jeff McNeil. McNeil gets put in now in 0-2 hole facing a strikeout because Alonso took his time. But
I hope McNeil
Alonso knew this rule.
I hope McNeil yells at Alonso and goes, man, hustle, dude, hustle back.
I promise you, Pete Alonso won't make that mistake again. And we knew that was going to be the case coming in, right? The first couple of weeks, you're going to see probably 1 to 2 pitch clock violations a game. In spring, after 4 weeks, the pitch clock violation number went from over 2 to just a tick over 1 violation per game. That was about the number yesterday. Had about 1 violation per game. Rafi Devers, Boston Red Sox against the Baltimore Orioles yesterday, a very, very hotly contested game. The Red Sox at one point were down 6, stormed back to cut it down to a 10-9 lead for the Orioles. Devers in the box. And this is another one of those things that, like I said, we talked about almost this exact scenario during spring training. Devers steps back into the box with 8 set. Well, let me reset that for you. Steps into the box with 15 seconds on the clock. The clock runs down to 9. At 9 seconds, because they synced up the video, at 9 seconds, Rafi Devers looks at the pitcher for Baltimore. The pitcher for Baltimore is not on the rubber yet, right? He's not set to pitch. He is not on the rubber. Foot not connected to the center of the mound yet. So because the pitcher's not on the rubber, Devers looks away and looks down to set himself at the plate. Guess what that means? Rafi Devers is not looking at the pitcher. When the 8-second mark comes, that is an automatic strike. And Rafi Devers, in a game that the Red Sox had come back down from 6 under to threaten to tie the game, rung up for a strike 3 and sat down. Red Sox not happy about that. But, again, I think it's kind of one of those spots that I go, I don't particularly love the batter must be looking at the pitcher with 8 seconds rule. I think once the batter's in the box, it's on him, right? It's on him to be looking and be ready for the pitch. Just throw the ball. If he ain't looking, he ain't looking. That's on the batter, right? I don't like the rule, but here's the reality. At this point, y'all have gone through 5 weeks of spring training. You have been playing with this pitch clock for 5 weeks now. These are not new rules. You may not love the rule, but the rule's in place. You should know better. All of that being said, I was scanning the social media yesterday while I was sitting on the couch watching the Bravos play. And I think the BetMGM account put out a tweet that said, 3 hours into opening day, how do we feel about the pitch clock? And you know what my response to it was, Lonzo? 3 hours into baseball, I have not thought about it one time. It did not change anything. Now, the Braves game still went 3 hours and 7 minutes. But that's because Fried got hurt in the 4th at like 60 pitches. He was probably good for another 35, 40 pitches. He got hurt. He had to come out. The Braves ended up in the second half of the game going and have a work a bullpen game. So they changed pitchers like 5 times. And every time a new pitcher came out, it kind of pushed it back. But the majority of the rest of the games checked in about 2.5 hours, 2:20, something like that. I watched 4 games yesterday. I thought about the pitch clock twice. The Mets game against the Marlins, the Red Sox game against the Orioles. The only 2 times. Other than that, that's a lie. I thought about it one more time. Last night watching a game. I was watching the Cleveland-Seattle game last night. and they had the pitcher cam, the cam that's out in center field that looks and shows you from the pitcher looking back towards the plate. I noticed that Seattle getting the ball back out to Paul Sewell. Sewell would get the ball. He would catch the ball from the catcher. And Lonzo was actually kind of impressive. He would catch the ball from the catcher, and in the motion of catching the ball, he would bring the ball back and be set and ready to go so that he was under no threat to violate the pitch clock. And, of course, what did that mean? As soon as the batter dug back in, looked up at the pitcher, and the umpire gave him the go signal, the next pitch was up. Rafi Devers' first at-bat took probably 40 seconds because it was pitch, 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 let's go. I thought about the pitch clock maybe 3 times yesterday. 2 infractions, 1 because I was impressed how fast an at-bat went. We're 1 game deep into the pitch clock era. I got no problem with it at all. Let's take a break. 844-326-3663 is the number. Text us at 71307. Start your text with FAN. What was your thoughts on the pitch clock? We'll talk with Chris when we come back about opening day on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
In Milwaukee, 140-99, cutting the gap between them without the Eastern Conference down to 2 games. The Pelicans got a 107-88 win in Denver with Nikola Jokic sitting out with the fourth half. New Orleans has now won 6 of 7, 7 in the West at the moment. And Connor McDavid scored the 61st goal of his season, 300th career in the Oilers' 2-0 win over LA. Edmonton jumped the Kings for second in the Pacific, 2 points behind Vegas. I'm Andrew Page.
Hey, it's DA. Be sure to listen to CBS Sports Radio at home. Ask Alexa to play CBS Sports Radio. CBS Sports Radio.
If Johnson talking to you, right? It's saying, hey, something's not right. You didn't listen because you thought the pain would go away in a week or 2, but it's not going away.
Football legend Emmitt Smith knows you've got to listen to your body. Never ignore what it's telling you. And when it sends pain signals, don't wait. Get ahead. Stop it in its tracks with a visit to the nation's leader in joint pain relief.
That's QC Kinetics. Yeah, they're way ahead of the curve in this pain treatment business.
QC Kinetics says no to invasive surgeries and harsh drugs. They've found a better, natural way to relief, using your body's own healing properties that you were born with. And it takes place same day, right in the office during your appointment. No surgeries and no downtime.
Before that pain goes next level, get ahead of it. Go see QC Kinetics. Stop it in its tracks.
Call QC Kinetics, 864-448-3772. That's 864-448.
That's a problem, Nathan. We discussed it some yesterday. I'm sure we plan to discuss it some more today, just about storylines. But this is so hard to predict. It could go. It could be a variation of everything you said, or it could be that Roman wins and the Usos win and everything stays the same. It's a possibility. I like not knowing because it makes it more interesting, for sure. But then will you be disappointed? How many people will be disappointed if everything just stays the same?
Monday evening, you will get an extra dose of Rob Brown because they just asked me to sit in for a couple of segments on BetMGM tonight, which we
Sweet.
air right here on the Fan Upstate in the evenings.
Yeah, but Monday evening is the national championship game, right?
Doesn't matter. I get to go nationally syndicated.
I know, but it won't be here.
Oh, that is the women's game Monday night?
No, the women's game's Sunday. When's
Okay.
when's the men's game? It's Monday night, right? I believe the men's game is Monday night. Sorry, I just, you still be national, just not here if it's.
Yeah, you are correct. No, well, it depends on, are we carrying pregame for that? Or will we go straight to live action? If we go pregame, I'll be, or if we go pregame, I won't be.
I think we're preempted, Mark. I think it may start at 6:30. I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
we're
I
carrying
can't.
3 hours of pregame.
I said I can't remember.
The game
So,
doesn't start till 9:20.
dude, I can look it up. You can go to the fan schedule, and I already have it up there on the fan schedule. I
Too
did
much
that
work.
yesterday, right? And
Either I am or I'm not.
and I'm
We'll find
waiting.
out
I'm
Monday.
waiting for something to save now, so I can't jump on there yet. Or I'll check. I will effort and let you know. You're still going to be on. It's just whether you can be heard in this market or not. It's still awesome that you're going to be on. I'm just a killjoy. What can I say?
You really are.
Yeah,
Killing
I
me.
just want you to be accurate. That's all. Because, I don't want people to be disappointed when they go, okay, I tuned in for Rob. Where's Rob?
And you're making me listen to basketball.
Yeah, I know.
The third, the final, the best, the money hour of the Rob Brown Show goes right now. This is the Fan Upstate. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Rob. Directly across from me on the other side of the glass, my co-host and executive producer, the great one, #DadKicks, Colonel Grudge, the alpha and the omega of the Fan Upstate. Lonzo is here as well. Be a part of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we invite you to call in on the GilstratFamilyDealerships.com phone line at 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. You can also text us on the text line at 71307. 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N. We will read them on the air. Chris has been kind enough to hold through the break to talk a little baseball with us. Chris, welcome to the show, big dog.
Alonzo, Rob, pleasure to chat with you, gentlemen. Hope it is a fantastic Friday thus far.
Every Friday is a great Friday, brother.
Yes, indeed. Had opening day yesterday. I felt like the rule changes were almost targeted directly at me. A younger person who enjoyed baseball when I was younger, get older now, and I just didn't have the attention span for it. Didn't enjoy the sport nearly as much. But I got to tell you, getting the chance to watch yesterday, I gave it a shot, and I didn't watch any of the spring training, but watched yesterday during opening day. I absolutely loved it because the thing that I'm looking for with baseball is not necessarily faster games, right? I mean, we watch college football, and college football can have 4.5-hour games for crying out loud. What we want is action. And the pitch clock and the rules, they've opened up action. It's okay if a game goes longer because it's going longer because something's happening, right? It's not going longer because you've got a lot of throws over to first base or guys stepping out of the batter's box to adjust their gloves every time. It just makes, for me, a more enjoyable product. The other thing that makes the product more enjoyable, in my opinion, is the way that baseball is beginning to embrace the gambling side of things. And so I have to be careful when I talk about this with the gambling side of things. I love sports gambling. I think it helps increase the watchability of a sport, how much you can enjoy it. But we're getting to a tipping point. And you had the chance to reference it last night. I saw it on your Twitter feed, where now we have more and more of these player props that are occurring. And the problem with that is what is happening with the way people think that they can talk to and treat individual players during these games. Now, we saw it a lot throughout sports. People will always yell out, "You suck," "We don't like you," "Boo," whatever, all kinds of terrible things. The person gets yelled at them. But to be either at a game or in social media to berate somebody because they didn't go 6 2/3 innings when you had the over, or in the first inning they threw less than 14 and a half pitches when you needed them to go at least 15. What has happened to us as a society? I don't care if you run Barstool Sports or not. You'd never stand in front of a professional athlete and say the kind of awful things that you would say to them on social media, because you'd leave toting 2 black eyes if you did. But because you're behind a keyboard, or because you think you're in a crowd and you bought a ticket to be there, you can say terrible things to people and about them because of where your quote unquote money is going. And one of the things that I learned, I've been gambling on sports for a long time, and maybe it's just the seasoned veteran in me with the sports gambling. What I always have to tell myself is that, yes, there are times when I lose. I lose more often than I win. But there are also times when you win. And what I mean by that is that when you have that over that hit and you bet on the under, there was somebody else that was betting on the under. So for any time you were happy, there's somebody else equally as upset as you were the time that you lost. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. That's the way that sports gambling is supposed to go.
Yep.
Supposed to give you another element to be able to enjoy the game, not an avenue to be able to berate people.
Yeah,
And
no,
I'll leave you
you're
with 2 things, and then I'll get your thoughts real quick.
Yeah,
I'll
real
leave you
quick.
with these 2, and then I'll hang up. First, Adley Rutschman, AL MVP.
Gangster.
Love that kid for the Orioles. He's going to be amazing. Second, I fear our long-running national nightmare may be coming back. Maybe I have PTSD, but with Aaron Judge now being on pace for 162 home runs, I'm scared to watch any other sports. I'm afraid we're going to get cut-ins of his ABs.
I appreciate it, Chris. Great to talk to you, big dog. Let me knock some of those things out, some of those responses real quick. I'll start with the first thing you brought up, which was the pitch clock and the impact it had on the game, because I made the same realization yesterday, right? I sat down to watch the Braves game. The Braves game took from first pitch to final out 3 hours and 7 minutes, from 1:05 to 4:12 or whatever the hell it was. And I was kind of blown away because the whole premise of the pitch clock was to speed up the game. But then I made the realization that no, it wasn't. The pitch clock is there not to speed up the game. The pitch clock is there to eliminate nothing happening, right? Go back to that Mets thing we were telling you about a minute ago. Jeff McNeil digs into the box. Pitcher's ready to go for Miami. I don't remember who was on the hill at the time. Pete Alonso, after a foul ball, sprints to second and begins walking back to first. Now, if you really boil it down to its most simple, Pete Alonso, for 15 seconds, that's how long it took him to walk from second back to first. Somebody put a clock on it. 15 seconds it took him to stop at second and walk back to first. Now, in the grand scheme of my day, 15 seconds is not a long time, but quick question, Lonzo. If I didn't talk and you didn't talk on this show for 15 seconds, what would happen?
There's an alarm that will be triggered down the hall, and we would get emails and engineering and possibly the boss coming in here to find out if we were dead, because that would be the only reason why we would stop talking for that length of time.
Correct. That is 100% accurate, because
or if there was a snake in the room. Yeah, I mean, that'll do it too.
Because when you're living your life, while in the grand scheme of 24 hours, something like 38,500 seconds in a day, 15's not the end of the world. But when you're doing something, 15 seconds can feel like eternity. If Lonzo and I didn't talk for 15 seconds, the boss would kick us square between the cheeks. All right? So, the concept of the pitch clock is not to make sure that every game goes 2 minutes, 27 seconds or shorter. The point of the pitch clock is to get Pete Alonso's ass from second back to first in 8 seconds instead of 15. Not because that 7-second difference is the end of the world, but because in that 7 seconds of difference when nothing is happening, because the entire game is being held hostage by one player walking from second to first, it feels like a very long time. Lonzo and I have been on the air in this segment for approximately 9 minutes and 7 seconds now. It does not feel like it's been 9 minutes since this hour started. That was about 5 seconds worth of silence. Did you feel how long it was? Even though the 9 minutes felt like it was that fast, at least to me, did you feel how awful that 5 seconds of nothing felt like?
If you were watching on the stream, you could see that I was doing something else,
to panic.
and I immediately stopped and made eye contact like, what are you doing?
Do you know why? Because when you go from 9 minutes of action to 5 seconds of nothing, that 5 seconds just kills the mood, right? And that's what baseball's trying to get rid of. It is not to speed. The byproduct is that the games go from being 3 hours to 2.5 or 2:45 to 2:15 or whatever it is. That's a nice little byproduct. If you're watching at home. If I'm at a baseball game, I'm cool if that game goes 5 hours if I'm at the game. But in Major League Baseball, the vast overwhelming majority of fans are not at the game. They're watching at home. So it is not to go from 2:45 to 2:15. It's to take that 7 seconds where one guy walking is the only thing happening in the stadium, and everybody's just going, all right, come on, Pete. Come on, Pete. Pete, I ain't got all day, Pete. Let's go. To get him to hustle back so that we can get to the next thing and make something happen. I think you are absolutely outright spot on with that, Chris. Well done. Well said. Now, the second thing you talked about. I very obviously am also on board with sports gambling. Have been for a while. Starting on April, 15th or 16th? Whatever that Saturday is. It is the 15th. April 15th. Returns on the BetQL network. Bet for the Cycle. A show that I, alongside with former MLB player Cody Decker, and outstanding second best producer in my life, Hate and Ass Mario, produces. A show that is completely centered on baseball gambling. Now, we also just talk regular baseball, but it's centric on baseball gambling. I am obviously a fan of sports gambling, but I also get what Chris is saying, that we are kind of at a tipping point with the public, right? I read an article on ESPN, and I'm trying to go back and find it right now. I read it on, I think, Wednesday, where they were talking about some players, getting the perspective of some players on what it's like to be a player within sports today with gambling becoming a larger percentage. I read a statistic yesterday afternoon because there are two things happening. Number one, the NFL just passed a regulation that says that sports gambling facilities within NFL stadiums may remain open while games are being played. Used to be you could have a gambling facility, so you could go in and you could wager on that game, but you had to get your wagers in before the game started. Once the game started, boom, that facility's closed off. Now they can stay open, so you can live bet the game at the game if you want to. On the flip side, the NCAA has now said that you cannot wager on their games in person. Schools cannot have direct relationships, and this is still being felt out. But as of right now, it looks like schools will not be able to have direct relationships with sports books, right? Part of the reason why is the attitude, is the mentality of fans. In this article, they quoted an anonymous Furman basketball player in this article who said that it doesn't feel all that much like winning or losing is the objective of a lot of fans anymore. The objective now is to win money gambling. He said he has gotten DMs on social media from people posting from anonymous accounts calling him the N-word because they took a player prop on him getting 22.5 and he got 21, right? As a gambler, that's disgusting. That's gross. People like that need to go away, right? You need to go away. You need to stop. You ruin it for everybody. Those are the people who go to bars and get blackout drunk and get into fights and drunk drive and get in trouble. You make people like me who go to a bar, have a couple of drinks, and I just want to hug everybody. And then when I hit my tipping point, I get an Uber to go home, and I'll get my car tomorrow. A few of the bars around here know my car because I've left it there plenty of times. No problem. You make me look bad. Same with the gambling. There was a guy, I want to say last year, who got arrested because he was sending anonymously very hateful messages to NBA players, including some that said, your family will suffer for this. Much more graphic than that. That's paraphrase. Your family will suffer because you cost me X $1,000 by not hitting your rebound prop or whatever it was. Listen, I have a belief that I have said for many, many years. It's very simple. You can have a utopian set of rules and regulations, the perfect set of rules and regulations that just balance society out perfectly. But those rules and regulations will only work if what? They're enforced. They're enforced accurately and fairly across the board. The billionaire must suffer consequences that are in line with what the homeless guy suffers if they break the same rule, right? I'll give you my favorite example, traffic tickets. If Lonzo and I get a traffic ticket on the way home for $180, that changes the way the next month of finances look for me. Doesn't break me, but now I know, all right, can't take the lady friend out to that once a month really nice date night that we're used to. Got to pay this traffic ticket. If Bill Gates gets a traffic ticket for $180, what punishment is there for him? None, right? Not really. The rules and regulations must be followed. They must be enforced fairly and consequentially. Sports gambling is fine. But we need to do a better job of taking gross boatheads like that guy and holding them accountable for the things that they say and they do. The Bradley Beal guy, we talked about that story earlier in the week. Bradley Beal's being investigated for simple battery because a guy after a game where the Wiz were playing at the Magic on, Tuesday night, I think, looked at Bradley Beal and said, you F-bomber, you just cost me $1,300, bleep you. Bradley Beal walked over, slapped the guy in the hand. The guy's hand went up and hit himself in the face, knocked his cap off. Those type of people need to be banned. That guy should not be allowed to gamble anymore, right? The day that your gambling hurts someone else, you're done. I don't care if it breaks you. That's on you, dog. That's your money. But the day you actively start hurting other people, words or actions, you're done. Because it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be recreational. It's supposed to be enjoyable. And people like that make it not. There are people in my life that I will not go to the bar with anymore. You know why? Because they embarrass me or they hurt somebody. If I know you've gotten a DUI in your lifetime, I will not drink with you anymore. I won't. That's a rule of mine. Because you've hurt people. It's off the board. We got to do that with gambling because it is fun. It is enjoyable. As Chris said, correctly and accurately. The games become more exciting and more enjoyable when you've got money on it, right? The over-under in this game between Iowa and South Carolina is sitting right now at I'm guessing 162.5. I'm going to sprinkle a little money on the over because I think you're going to touch 170 in this game. And you better believe that makes the game more exciting for me every time Caitlin Clark puts up a logo 3. Every time Aaliyah Boston gets the ball in the paint. I'm like, let's go, right? But you know what I'm not going to do if the under hits? I'm not going to send those two women a message calling them evil names because I lost $20. I'm going to go, sucks for me. That's the risk. Great call, Chris. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. 844-326-3663. That is the number to jump on the Gilstrap Family Dealerships.com phone line. You can text us at 71307 if you'd like to get in the show that direction as well. Start your text with FAN, and we will read those on the air when we come back here in just a minute from right now. I got 2 quick NFL stories to get for you. Talked about the potential expansion of the league yesterday. Jay Busby, columnist for yahoosports.com, threw out a really interesting idea that I want to see how you guys feel about. And we talked about the Thursday night games, right? Teams will be allowed to play more than one short week game, making them eligible for multi-Thursday night games this week. A Miami editorialist did an excellent job, better than me, at breaking down why that's a horrendous idea. And I'll lay that out for you when we come back on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, got a live read. We will be right back. Stay right there.
Soroka potentially coming back? This team is not missing any key piece. There is no fatal flaw. So yes, Atlanta Braves fans believe because this.
I'd like to know why all the names you guys are coming up with are evil names for me, but that's fine. Also, Keegan, I was thinking the same thing. I just never mentioned it to him. I mean, how many people can read cursive anymore? It's sad, but it's true. Cursive is going the way of calligraphy. Also, for the second time, I went to a movie with Rob, and when the movie comes on, he is very quiet. So if you ever wondered about that with his, as loud of a personality as he is when the movie comes on, pretty quiet. I'm still really upset about something in that movie, and I can't talk about it because it will be spoilery. And it's not a bad thing. The movie overall was really, really good. But it's could be a bad thing for some characters. That's all. No, because it's all going to be electronic signatures, Trey. So Keegan asked a question that I was going to ask you already about why you're using so much cursive, because a lot of people out there will go, "What is that?" Because cursive isn't taught in school anymore. So, pretty soon, speaking in code for us, me and you can write something in cursive to each other, and there'll be a certain age of kids who won't have a clue. Yeah.
I did not know that there was such outrage at those of us that still use the archaic and arcane language of cursive handwriting. I didn't know.
It's calligraphy. It's hieroglyphics. I mean, or it will be soon.
I guess. I bought a new tablet. One of the things that I was playing around with yesterday is, instead of typing out tweets, like there were a couple of things where I'd take a picture of something, I'd screenshot something, and then I'd write what I wanted to say on it. And I was writing in cursive because that's how I write. I write in cursive. And I got like 10 tweets and texts from people, including P1 Keegan, friend of mine on and off the air, who were like, "Dude, cursive gotta go. You gotta stop." I've written in cursive since 3rd grade. I have never written in anything. I either write in cursive or it's super important, all caps. That's it. And I had no idea there was this campaign against people who write in cursive.
Well, other than signing your name for something, no one writes in cursive anymore. They just don't. For one thing, it's not taught in school anymore. So there's going to come a time where there's going to be a generation that, I don't know what, are we on Generation Y? I don't know what that generation is called yet. I've reached the point where I just don't know, because I'm so old that there are several generations to get back to whatever the generation is now. The generation that my granddaughter's in will have no idea how to write cursive or read it. And it's weird.
Did you see the stuff I posted yesterday?
I saw some of it.
Were you able to read it?
The first thing I thought is, why is he using cursive? But I didn't say anything about it. And then Keegan threw something up on the stream, and it reminded me, because I was going to respond. I didn't see all the responses, because I don't understand how to work that Twitter thing where you go back and see all responses. But first thing I noticed was he's writing in cursive. Why is he doing that? And think about how much do you, other than this now, how much do you use cursive in your daily life?
Constantly. In fact, look.
No, I know that thing's attached to your hand. By the way, it's amazing.
I got my show notes right here. Look, it's all in cursive, right? I write.
It looks like something on a those boards, those menu boards in a restaurant.
It is.
That's what it looks like you're doing.
Can I tell you how much I can write in cursive, and it's bright green now? Big fan. Look, I didn't know. I put up like 2 pictures where I wrote what I wanted to say in cursive on it, and got like not half the overwhelming I put up a thing where I wrote down my predictions for every division in Major League Baseball, up to and including and through my World Series prediction, right? Where I've got the Braves beating the Blue Jays 4-2. The majority of the responses that I got, both in tweet form and from friends of mine who texted, because I got like 8 or 9 guys, we just talk baseball all the time. Including Cody Decker, by the way, where, dude, why would you write that in cursive? Just write like a normal person. I thought we all wrote in cursive. I guess not.
By the way, there's another reason, because a lot of us, since we don't write in cursive anymore, are losing the ability to read it. And what you're doing is you're causing people to put a little more effort into reading your stuff, which might make them not read it. I mean, and the whole point is to get people reading your stuff, and now they're going to be like, yeah, it's cursive, and they're just going to move off to something else.
Keegan said, just because you can doesn't mean you should. If you loved eating garlic cloves like an apple, you absolutely could, but people would hate that too.
Yeah, they come into the office sometimes.
Yeah, that would be one of the more pleasant smells in this building more often than not.
It would be.
All right, let me get a couple of NFL thoughts in here real quick. Yesterday, we told you that Mike Florio said he believes, based on conversations taking place around the NFL right now, that 2 things are on their way. Number 1, league expansion up to a maximum of 40 teams, but potentially 36 to 38 teams. He also said that he believes, because there is money to be made, and that is the driving force in every NFL decision, there is money to be made in having NFL football take place every night of the week. Monday Night Football, add Tuesday and Wednesday, keep the Thursday night games, play a game on Friday, maybe a couple on Saturday, and then a full Sunday slate. And obviously that would be made easier if you had 40 teams or 38 teams, right? I think you go likely 40. You add 8 teams, and this is a long-term prospect, but you add 8 teams, and in doing so, you basically stick another full division into the NFC and another full division into the AFC. Or you do 36 or 38, and I do think this will be the long-term solution. You get rid of the AFC and NFC entirely, and you have a league-wide tournament-style playoffs when it's all said and done. But longtime friend of mine and friend of the show, Jay Busby, had a thought, and he put this forward. We know that the NFL is at least interested in having 1 or 2 teams internationally. Your likely first 2 cities, of course, would be Mexico City, Mexico, and jolly old London, England, UK, Great Britain, whatever. But Jay Busby said, wait. How about this? What if the NFL is going to expand to 36 or 38 or 40 teams, what if this is the open door, Lonzo, for a full European division? Instead of just sticking a team in London, what if we put 1 in London, we put 1 in Paris, we put 1 in Frankfurt, Germany, and we put 1 in Rome?
So NFL Europe.
But
again,
they're in the NFL. Right? This is not like a separate league.
NFL Europe was in the NFL. It was a lower league of the NFL,
right.
But still.
These teams, the London Jaguars, the Berlin Buccaneers, these teams would be playing the Atlanta Falcons, the New Orleans Saints, right?
Trying to imagine sunshine with a British accent, because once you live
Roy?
somewhere, once you live somewhere for a while, you start picking up some of the accents.
Hello, dude. So Jay floated that idea, and I got to kicking it around a little bit, and I thought, actually, that might work. Think about it. You go 4 teams. You create a division in Europe. Well, out of 17 games, maybe 18, Lonzo, there's 6-year games off the schedule right there. You don't have to leave the continent for 6 games. Then you take, of the remaining, let's say right now, 11, you play half at home, you play half on the road, right? So now what you do is you take the team from London and you have them play 3 games in the States back to back to back to open the season, right? They play a West Coast, a Central, and an East Coast game. Then they fly back to London, and they're in London for 4 games or 5 or 6 games. 3 divisional games. Then you have 3 opponents, road opponents, fly to London to meet them. And keep in mind, because every team plays today 2 full divisions, right? You would have, let's say, NFL European division is lined up against the NFC South and the AFC East. You would set it up to where that division would play all of its home games against the NFC South and all of its away games against the East. So that team would travel to the States, play all the teams in the AFC East at home, and then play all the teams in the NFC South on the road. And what that allows you to do is fly the Saints, Falcons, Panthers, and Buccaneers to Europe and play 4 weeks in a row on the road. They would play 1 week the team from London, the next week the team in Frankfurt, the next week the team in Paris, the next week the team in Rome, and then fly back.
Do they get a bye when they come back? Because, man, that would be rough.
That's how I would say it. You play 4 games in a row, you get your bye right after that. So for 4 consecutive weeks, you'd have a round robin between NFL Europe and the NFC South on the road. And then some point later in the season, you'd have a 4-week round robin where you have NFL Europe play 4 straight weeks in the States against the AFC East. And that way, teams only have to make 1 European trip a year. Granted, it's a long trip. But I wonder if they'd rather play 4 weeks on the road. You would build facilities, right? Like instead of just building a stadium, you would build a full facility in that stadium where the American team would have a place to stay, a full-fledged NFL gym, their own practice field, et cetera, so that it is the most comfortable it can be for a 4-week roadie. And then once you come off that 4-week roadie and you get back to the States, you're on the bye the next week. Now, I'm not saying I love this. I'm not saying it's a great idea. I'm saying it's really not wildly far-fetched, right? Because if you are down the road going to expand to 38 or 40 and add 2 full new divisions, you do 1 more stateside, you put 4 European teams down, you make them 1 division. That way, 6 of their games are already accounted for. 3 home games against the other 3 European teams, 3 away games against the other 3 European teams. Then a 4-week stretch where whatever division they played on the road last time comes to Europe. The NFC South flies to Europe. Those 4 teams play 4 round-robin games against the NFL European teams. And then the 4 European teams all come to the States and play a 4-game round-robin on the road against 4 stateside teams. I'm not saying it's a great idea. I'm not saying I love the idea. I'm saying it's an idea. I'm saying it's a setup that would allow the NFL to get the European teams that they so desperately want. It would allow them to knock out part of the logistics nightmare of a European team. That's been the big thing about Shad Khan moving the Jacksonville Jaguars out of the butthole of America to London. Has been, well, what about the logistics, right? Are we going to ask a team from London to fly back and forth across the pond 8 times a year? Not if you stick 3 other European teams there, right? Now they only got to fly back and forth 4 times a year or twice a year. Once for the 4-game stretch and then maybe once more for another 3-game stretch. There's 7 away games. You add those 7 away games to the 3 away divisional games, there's 10 away games right there. You don't even really need to do that much. But the logistics nightmare is kind of eased by that. And you've expanded the league by at least 4 teams. And you've created a situation where you can take advantage of multiple European markets. London and Frankfurt are likely the first 2. That's where the European games have been the last couple of years, and they've done exceptionally well. Now you just got to pick 2 more cities that are receptive. Would Paris, France be? I don't know. Would Rome, Italy be? I don't know. The NFL would have to do a lot of study to find out which cities would be receptive. But if there are 4 of them, there's your idea. There's your concept right there. What's your gut reaction to that, so? Any at all?
I could go really old timer and say I don't like it, but I
don't like it. That's the end of it.
But I don't like it for the reason that the travel I think would be really tough on the players. I really do. Just imagine you're away from home for a month. I mean, not getting to see your kids and all that kind of stuff. I think from that standpoint, that would really bother me. Because in the end, yeah, they're players and that's all great, but they're also people.
Sure.
And they're going to be away from everyone they love, except for now. It may, in some people's cases, that might make them play better because there are no distractions at all, other than being in Europe and not knowing where you are and stuff like that. I don't like it. And it's not that I don't like change, period. But if you're going to put one team in Europe, if it has to happen, then this is probably the best way to do it.
I think that's where I kind of fall as well. I think for me, it's less, this is such a wonderful idea, and more, all right, if you are just dead set determined on getting a team in Europe, right? Like if you are just dead set determined on getting London a game, this is the best way to do it. Send 4 teams. Make sure that the players who get drafted to London or Frankfurt or whatever. By the way, could you imagine coming out of Georgia, going to the NFL draft, and you just got drafted to Frankfurt, Germany? TL showing up in Germany?
No, I can't imagine that at all. That would be a lot of money, though.
I tell you right now, I'd live in freaking Poland. I'd live in Alaska where the sun never shines. I'd live in Scandinavia for $34 million a year. You can stick me in Antarctica for $34 million a year and never teach me the language. I'd be fine for $34 million a year. Give me 3 years there, rack up about $100 million, and I'm out.
Yeah, for $34 million, you could bring in your own people that speak your language and just surround yourself with those people.
So there's a thought. How do you guys feel about it? Let's get some of the text in here. JT and Greer says adding 8 teams in the States is a better idea than overseas. 2 reasons: more interest and lower cost. First off, JT, you got to tell me what 8 markets, right? Name me the 8 markets that don't have a team that would be good for one. I got one off the top of my head: St. Louis. You give the St. Louis Rams back, right? Or a new iteration of it. St. Louis, like Oklahoma City always gets pushed. I don't know if Oklahoma City would work or not. But you got to give me 8 markets. I can give you at least 2, maybe 3 European markets, and then the NFL will do the research to see if there are more. We'll see. I don't know. Texas said, which tablet did you get? I got the Samsung Tab 6 Lite, and I am in love with it. It is faster than the A8. Like, I don't know how they went. Like, Samsung went backwards from the 6 to the 8. And I went 6 because you get the little righty pen. The A8 doesn't have the righty pen. Doesn't have the stylus attached.
Is that how they label it? The righty
the
pen?
Righty pen.
Yeah, is that on the box it says comes with righty pen?
Samsung righty pen. Look, because you can write, Zoe, you can write with it, but then with the same pen, you can erase. Can't do that on the 8. Big fan. Dan the Superfan Man texts in. He says, I can't write in cursive consistently. I write and print in cursive within words. See, I'm just, it's all cursive. I don't know why. It's just me. He also says brown thing and the round thing. Yes, a basketball into a basketball hoop. The basketball's brown. The hoop is round. I thought that was.
You're the only one I've ever heard say that.
Really?
So yeah. So it was a new term for me too.
Setting trends.
I'm used to it now, but yeah, when I first heard it, I'm like, I got where you were going, but still.
Texture says one thing they need to do, the Gamecocks, one thing they need to do is hashtag rebound. Texas says hockey goalies are way more flexible than soccer goalkeepers. Similar skills, but hockey requires way more flexibility. Yeah, that's an absolute fact. By the way, again, if you did not hear the interview that we did this morning, I need you to go back and listen to it because I thought it was exceptional. I'll get that posted for you later on today. Let's see what else. Texter says, looking forward to Monday with the start of the starting 11. Also looking forward to catching my first text ban. Oh, that's fun. Love a texter calling him his shot of getting himself banned before we even get to the starting 11. That's exceptional. Let's take a break. We'll come back, wrap this bad boy up on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Will the NFL consider buying the CFL? No, but I could absolutely see them considering Canada as an international size for sure. I think there's enough interest there, don't you? I would think you could look at a Toronto or Quebec as a possibility.
Cleaning out an office and it smells like they found something dead in there. I don't know what
That's
they're doing.
probably because they might have.
Yeah. All right, come here real quick.
Oh, don't do it to me, Lonzo.
No, it's not that. I don't understand the purpose of this kind of vehicle. I'm sure you'll tell me that it's.
Oh, the Gladiator.
Yeah,
I love a Gladiator.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
But why? Because
it's three cars in one. It's a Jeep Wrangler in the front half. It's a convertible because you can take the doors and the roof off, and also you got a pickup truck bed.
I don't know.
You know what it is? It's the modern day Camino.
Okay.
Modern day El Camino.
Okay.
That's
All right.
what it is.
All right. Okay.
It's a modern day El Camino.
You know, that's the first time I've seen one of those.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love them. If they
with
were
the 4 doors.
Yep.
I mean, maybe it wouldn't. Well, if it's not 4 doors,
It's a truck.
It's just a truck. Yeah.
If those cars weren't $60,000, that's exactly what I'd buy.
And what would you use the bed for? I mean, how big is that bed? What could you actually get in there?
It's
Groceries?
That
I
bed
mean,
is bigger than CB's pickup truck bed.
no.
Yep. I'm just over here writing stuff in cursive at this point because I cannot fathom that you guys can't read cursive. Like, I don't know if that is that an elitist thing to say that I grew up writing cursive?
It's a unable to grasp how things are now. It's a living in the past kind of it's an old guy thing. That's what you're doing right now. It's okay though.
Like,
you're welcome among us. You were going to get here eventually.
Can you guys not read that? I mean, that just seems obvious.
So I just
how is that? What do you mean that's not bad handwriting?
Yeah, the writing is not that great. So I just saw someone in the restroom and they said they were concerned because furniture's being moved that the restroom was being blocked. And I said, isn't that what you kind of do every day? I don't know how they took it. They laughed about it, but you know, I mean, he can wear the frilly shirt. He probably has one, James.
But I don't want to be a pirate.
No, he's talking about Triple H, the early Blue Blood thing. The Hunter Hearst Helmsley. When he come out with all proper.
The Blue Blood?
Yes.
These are the two ways that I write, right? You either get the top or the bottom. There's no in between.
Does that say egg salad?
Yes,
Is that the
it's
special
egg
today?
salad.
It says egg salad. That third word on the top one, that's salad, right? Hey, we got egg salad on special over here. I just want you to know that I'm pro egg salad. I haven't had any in a while, but you know. I'm also pro egg salad's effects in a room, you know, a few hours later. It's just awesome. So I didn't gather anything for trending because you said we were going to do something
That's totally
else.
fine. We'll
I'm
do
just reminding you.
We will do that. With friends like these, who needs an enemies?
I think mine was better. I still say it's salad.
So Lonzo and I took a Rob Brown Show field trip last night, went and saw the new Dungeons and Dragons movie called Honor Amongst Thieves. And here is what I'll say about it, and then I want your thoughts. So this is what I told Captain America Chris Evans down the hall when he asked about it this AM. If you've never played or been around Dungeons and Dragons before, it's a fine movie. It's a fun little high fantasy action adventure movie. It doesn't really slam the tropes of classic fantasy stuff in your face. It's just a fun little 2-hour. There's some monsters to be slayed and some bad guys to be fought fantasy movie. But if you did play D&D back in the day, or maybe you still play it today, like on Ray D&D once a Saturday during, all season long, once a month on Saturdays during the year. It is chock-a-block full of classic D&D references, right? There are classic monsters like the Mimic. There are newer ones like the Slime. But I think my favorite part about it, as both the DM and a player, was the very clear moments where the characters in the movie were speaking as if they were characters at a D&D table playing as the characters in the movie. There is one line very early in the movie that Zoe can attest. I leaned forward in my chair laughing so hard when the guy said it, because it was such a classic, it's been forever a problem, player at a table trying to role play but being bad at it moment that I thought was great. And again, even within the fights, like I was calling out the moments where I'm like, oh, that's a failed strength save.
Did you find yourself looking at certain characters and picturing someone you know playing that character?
Yep.
Yeah. So I know exactly who Chris was.
Wizard? Sorcerer?
Tiefling.
Yeah, fair enough. For Tiefling Druid.
She's the one that questions much and was real technical about everything.
I looked at that when she dropped the "I don't trust anybody" line. I'm like, oh, that's Lonzo. That's Lonzo if he ever decided not to be a tank for once in his life. That's what he'd be.
One of the best parts about the movie, and you and I didn't discuss this, was the Paladin's armor. That armor was so cool. It really was.
I was concerned.
And what a pompous piece of work he was.
I love it. That's exactly a character I would play.
That's why I never play that kind of paladin.
There's one extreme.
Although I could, after seeing that, I could do that.
There's one extreme or the other for Rob Brown. It's either the smartass who never turns it off or the deadpan who never turns it on, and no in between. And I thought that was great, right? Because they didn't flesh out the characters any more than a couple of novice D&D players at a table would create those characters, right? They were generic on one hand. Chris Pine's a generic bard character on one hand. But on the other hand, he was the lines they wrote for him in the movie were as if it was a rookie player who never played before talking through that character. If you are first off, if you just like fun, goofy adventure fantasy movies, it's fine. It's just a blockbuster summer. Let's watch them hit bad guys with swords kind of movie. It was nowhere near gratuitously violent. There was very little blood. I don't think there was any blood in it.
Well,
Like it was.
Well, there was some beheading.
There was one moment, but I think the point of that was what? It was just to show you how badass only that bad guy is, right?
Well, no, I'm talking about the girl. Holta, I forget her name, the main character.
Oh,
Holga, yeah.
Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah. She fought a lot and she was wicked.
Yeah. It was great. If you're into that kind of movie, it's absolutely worth it. Tech said, what was the movie roll on a D20? 16, 15? As a hardcore D&D fan, 16, 17. If you're just going to look for a movie where bad guys get hit with hammers, 11.
There were some lulls in it, but not enough for me to go as low as you. I would go 18.
Okay.
I had a great time watching that movie.
Every D&D inspired product I've ever seen, towards the top. Checked in just behind Critical Role. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the week. Don't drink and drive. I'll punch you in the face. Have a lovely weekend. If you are at the Greenville Swamp Rabbit game tonight, come find me, say hi. I will be a fan tonight. I'm letting one of the girls take over because it's women in sports night. Otherwise, I'll be working tomorrow night. Come see me. Come say hi. Have a great weekend. Love you. See ya. It's the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Later, brother. Trey said, would this movie be good to serve as an introduction to D&D for people that have never played it? No, Trey, it would not. Because it's not played as if the game is played, right? Like they speak as though they are players at a table playing the characters, but like it was fine for me because I could see the moment the bard failed an inspiration roll at a critical moment, right? I could see the moment that the wizard tried to cast a spell and the spell failed on him. And I know those moments because I'm like, okay, that's where he rolled a critical failure there. Or
and
he
what
rolled too low.
character were those little people? Because they weren't halflings.
Halflings.
Were they
Yeah, they were
halflings?
halflings.
I didn't take them as
Yeah,
halflings.
That's a halfling. A halfling is just a tiny person.
Maybe it's because I always equate halflings and hobbits
Yeah.
as the same.
No, halflings are ordinarily proportioned humans who just happen to be half size. So what I would advise you, Trey, to do, honestly, if you wanted to get into it, first off, shoot me an email. I've actually got a YouTube playlist that I have built for players of mine who are first time at a table. If you will email me, I'll send you the playlist and you can kind of get the gist of it. I will tell you this. The only thing you need to learn, Lonzo, is how to pick out which dice is which dice.
Which is still a struggle.
You need to learn some of the terminology. A save versus a check versus a straight roll. Advantage, disadvantage, inspiration. You just need to learn some of the basic terminology, which is easy to do. And then you just need to watch people play. That's it. Just watch a session. If you want to see people who really get heavy into the role play side of it, you can watch Critical Role. If you want to see people who really get into the fighting mechanics of it, there's a couple of other playlists I can send you of people who really are more focused on the mechanics, the fighting, the gameplay, as opposed to the role play. So it just depends on what kind of player you think you want to be ultimately. So you can jump into Critical Role. You can jump into, what's the other one? There's one other series that's really good for beginners to learn at. Or when I announce when the next game date is, you can tune into Ray D&Dio. Which actually I think, and I'm saying this and I'm not being sarcastic with this, Ray D&Dio is a good pick because you have all three learning levels at the table, right? You've got Chris, who has played it for years and years and years. You've got me, who has played it for a fair enough amount of time to really get the mechanics of it. You've got Cam, who is very, very big into the RP. You've got Tim, who this is his first game ever, so we're teaching him as we go. You've got Matthew and Lonzo, who are kind of like right in the middle of it.
No. I'd say Matthew's more closer,
hardcore about it.
Yeah,
closer to Chris.
I'm closer to Tim.
Yeah,
because I've only played I've played through a couple campaigns.
Yeah,
but they've been so like years apart that you
Yeah.
have to get back into.
So I would definitely say, if you are at all interested, first off, email me, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. I'm actually, as a matter of fact, Trey, if you are interested in playing, one of the things that I want to start doing is hosting one-shot D&D nights, where you show up, you randomly draw a character sheet out of a stack, and I put together like a 4-person party to just run just a quick one-shot to teach people the game so that they can jump into new ones. I think Keegan wants to play at some point. Like 3 of Courtney's friends all want to play. She hates D&D, but all her friends want to play with me, which is hilarious. But yeah, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. I'd be happy to get you in on the introduction. Keegan said, I truly love watching y'all stream. It's super fun. It is. But I think, again, if you're going to watch other people play, you need to have them RP well. That's why Critical Role has been so successful. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Friday. I'm going to watch baseball and do more work. Have a great weekend. If you're at the Bits game tonight, come find me. Otherwise, we will see you all back here on Friday. Have a lovely weekend. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. May your D's all be 20.